request of atheist influencers have misinformed you. The debate is kind of cut off. That's too bad. Can you guys see? Can you read the deconstructing atheism? Or is it cut off by the top, the stuff on top? Can you guys read deconstructing atheism? Is that clear? Is it cut off by the crap on top? You can read it. Is it pretty legible? Yeah. All right, cool. Debate got cut off a little bit. The D, it's like half a D. It's cut off. Shit. I'll make another one. I think I can do it while. Shit. I'll make another one. I think I can do it while I'm live. Or I could switch to an older one. What's this? That one. The problem is when I'm on cam, then you can't really read it. I look as depressed as I sound. Ha ha ha. There's one with cam and background. Where what, like it makes the background, it makes the background go, yeah, how do I do that? I don't know how to do that. Guess we're learning, how do I change that? Let's see here, background. Oh, it's not loading anything. What? Stickers, boards, voice effects, sound effects, enhance, background. I'm requesting to assist. Okay.
Hello?
Hey, Flem.
What's up, Mars? So what you have to do is it's on the background choices, right? So
Okay.
it should be one that has like a picture in the middle. It has a picture, but it's like a box, a clear box on the outside. That way it shows you on the camera, but it shows your background fully and you'll be like in a small box.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So if you use that one, you'll be able to see like you, like full body. Well, not full body, but you'll be able to see your face, but you'll be able to see your whole background clear.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I'm clicking on the background. It's just not loading for some reason.
Yeah. No worries.
I keep trying to figure it out. All right, thanks. I think I know what you're saying.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Atheists have gotten mad recently.
Hey, am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Hey, am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So like, what God do you believe in?
I believe in the Christian God, Jesus.
Okay. So you think that God can't fail, right?
Can't fail. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that when God was creating Adam and Eve, do you think God's goal was to create two creatures that freely chose to do the good?
Well, I kind of have see, I think the fact that we can choose things choice is a consequence of the fall. So before the fall, we didn't have a choice. We just obeyed the word of God.
Okay, so by your own lights, before the fall, Adam and Eve did not have a choice, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think God's goal was to create two creatures that eventually did the good, since they had no choice?
Well, originally he created things where they didn't have choice and they always obeyed him. But then at some point there was either like a failure to understand God or like a failure to listen to God. And so that resulted in the fall, and because of the fall now we can choose between good and evil. We can make choices
Well,
now. God,
but
God
my
God's command isn't like an option. God's command is obligatory. You have to do what God says. It's not an option. It's not like, oh, I choose to do what God says. It's like, no, I'm obligated to do what God says. And that's
my argument, I guess, is that God's goal was to create two creatures and have one of them doom humanity to fall.
No.
Okay, then you would agree that if that wasn't his goal, he failed, right? In that goal.
His goal is to have like a loving relationship with his children, and we're his children.
No, what I'm saying, like without creation, right? It's only God. You agree that creation is perfect?
Creation is
Like,
perfect? No.
like if like in a world where let's say we rewind time to like the moment before God chose to create, right?
Okay.
You would agree that that existence would be perfect because God is perfect. God's all that exists.
Yeah.
Okay, so by God choosing to create, it's a free gift that he gives to the world. But him creating can't take away from the amount of goodness in the world, right? Because that would detract from his all goodness. So God before creation and God after creating, the amount of goodness in the world has to be the same.
There wasn't
or more,
a world.
Right?
There wasn't a world prior to creating.
No, I'm saying a world in that there was an agent. God existed alone.
Yep.
Before creation. That's what
Yep.
I mean by world there.
Okay.
Do you agree that a world in which God only exists is a perfect world?
Yeah.
Okay. So God choosing to create, it's not the case that an all good, all powerful God could detract from the amount of goodness. So it would either have to stay the same or increase, right?
What do you mean? Like in Christianity, the good is the will of God. When we're talking about like moral goodness, when we say God's good, we're not saying he's good
Yeah.
in properties.
Right. You're just saying something along the lines of God conforms to his own nature or something like that.
No, I'm just saying God's not morally good. He's good in the sense that he has all the great. He's good like a pizza is good.
Right. I agree. I'm saying that I'm not using my definition of the word perfect or my definition of the word good. I'm asking if under your understanding, let's say there are two events, right? The moment before creation and a moment after creation. You would agree that that moment before creation, however you're cashing out the term good or perfect, it's maximally good, maximally perfect. Because God exists and God alone exists.
Okay.
So would you agree that a world in which God only exists is maximally good or maximally perfect?
Sure.
Okay, so from that, so God existence was maximally good, maximally perfect. However you cash those terms out. If you think that God cannot fail, and you think that Eve sinned or caused the fall of humanity, for you to have both of those views, you would have to say that either God failed if God's goal was to create two beings that freely chose to do the good, or that God did not fail, but God's plan was to allow humanity to fall.
Yeah, so God God knew that we would fall, and so he has a plan for redemption. So we're currently in the God's plan of redemption, where he's eventually the world's going to be perfect.
Yeah, but so the problem I have with that is let's say there's some ultimate good, because you're talking about like an ultimate good, right? let's say there's some like ultimate good, like some greater good that we could think about, like protecting children from disease or something. But there's a small sacrifice that needs to be made, namely like injecting them with a needle, and that causes some physical pain. All you're saying when you say um, that jabbing the needle is bad is that if it were the case that you could protect the child from the disease without administering the pain, you would choose that route. So if I say that analogy to say that if you're saying that all of this, that all of the suffering that you think exists is just conducive to some greater good, it's either the case that God could achieve that perfect aim without all the suffering, in which case it would be like
How would you know that?
malicious. What do you mean?
We can only like the only we can only know what God reveals about himself. We can't speculate on God apart
Yeah,
from what
but
he reveals.
God has revealed that He's all good, right?
Uh-huh.
And He's revealed that He's all knowing, right?
Uh-huh.
So my question, I guess, would be, how is it that an all good, all knowing God could exist in a world where there's any evil at all?
What's
It's
the con-
logically impossible, right?
How is that inconsistent? No.
What do you mean?
There's no inconsistency with there being evil in the world and God and his properties.
No, there is when the evil is just meant to be what ought not be done, right? And a good being is somebody who, when presented with evil, would act to stop it in all else equal cases.
What? He is stopping evil. We're in his plan of redemption. What are you talking about?
So wait, but so do you think that
It's just
oh,
because God
maybe
is not doing it fast enough for you. That's your problem. You want him to
oh
increase.
no.
You have a problem with when God chooses to do things and when he doesn't? Because he's going
well,
to
I don't think God makes
eliminate all the
choices like
evil. We're in the
well, I don't think
process. We're in the process of God eliminating all the evil. He's fixing us. He's fixing the world, so everything's going to be perfect in heaven.
wait, but I assume that you don't mean that God like makes choices in like a temporal like cause and effect notion.
God
Doesn't have free will, right?
Huh?
But God
has free
doesn't.
will,
You
of
don't
course.
think God has free will, right?
Of course he does.
You think that God can choose to do evil?
Choose to do evil. That's not free will.
What do you mean? Free will is the choice between actions to change given the same antecedent conditions.
God's the standard for the good, so God can't do evil. He is the standard of the good.
Right. But you
There's
think he's
an-
all powerful, right? He can actualize any logically possible state of affairs.
I don't know about that, but kind of.
Like anything that's logically possible that doesn't entail a contradiction, God could achieve.
I don't know if that's true.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's a stronger position than most would grant, and I'm saying that I would grant that. But what I'm saying is, look, there's like there's a couple things that you've agreed to, right? That I think that it's worth thinking about, and that is that before God chose to exist, the world was perfect, and you have to believe that God creating is a free choice. God wasn't forced to create; He wasn't obligated to create. It was a free gift that He gave humanity. And then from there, you have to say that God can't fail, and you have to say that God's goal was creating two humans that did the good.
How do you know that's
right?
God's goal?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
But because, so do you agree that before Eve ate of the fruit, Eve did not know the difference between good and evil?
No.
What?
What?
Do you agree that before
Eating
Eve ate of the fruit, she didn't know the difference between good and evil?
No, eating the fruit wasn't about them like getting knowledge or like intelligence or something. Eating the fruit.
Why?
Knowledge
Eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah, knowledge of good and evil in that context means decision. So it was when Adam and Eve decided for themselves what was good and evil instead of obeying the word of God, that was the fall. It wasn't about.
Yeah, but how were they supposed to know that it was correct?
Because God told them. Before the fall, they did whatever God said. Thanks.
Yeah.
So then after the fall, they go, well, there's either a failure to listen to God's command or they didn't understand God's command, which
Yeah, but
results in
you
the
agree
fall.
that you shouldn't always listen to what God says, right? God doesn't always want you to listen to what he says.
Of course he does. What do you mean?
No, because there have been cases in the past where God told somebody to do something, and when they went to go through with it, he revealed that it was just a test, and he didn't actually want them to do that thing.
Well,
So
he
how do
did.
they know that this wasn't? How do they know that this wasn't a sacrifice your son moment where God goes, eat of the tree, eat of the tree, eat of the tree, and then they go to eat of the tree? All along, he could have stopped them, but he ended up not doing it.
Dude,
How do they know that they weren't being tested like that?
why are you speculating on this? Like, can
I'm just pointing out it's logically inconsistent to say that it's in all cases God wants you to do what he says,
You haven't pointed
and
out.
in some cases God doesn't want you to do what he says.
What's the P and not P?
The P and not P is in all cases God wants you to do what he says, and in some cases God does not want you to do what he says. That's the P and not P.
That's not what the Bible teaches. So you're just attacking a straw man. That's not what the Bible teaches.
Wait. Are you saying that there are some instances in biblical scripture where God, you're saying that it never happens where God says do this thing, and then when they go to do the thing, God says nope, just kidding? You're saying that never happens?
When God told Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, God wanted Abraham to, like, it was a test, right? So he wanted Abraham to do it, but then he didn't. He was going to stop Abraham.
You're saying God changed his mind? Of course, God didn't change his mind. So of course, the whole time he was saying that, he actually didn't want it to happen, right?
Effort to be charitable, like slightly. Like,
wait. No, but you were saying I was making a straw man just for you to reiterate my exact point.
That's not what Revelation teaches. You're teaching things that go against what the Bible teaches. So
I don't. Obviously, I don't believe in the Bible, right? But I'm using your holy scripture as an example.
You're failing
of
because
the
you're attacking
contradiction.
A straw man. You're not attacking the scripture. What it says, you're attacking a straw man. So you're failing.
Help me understand, right? Okay, so this is my exact claim, and you help me understand. My exact claim is, in all cases where God tells one of his servants to do something, it's the case that God wants that exact thing to be carried out. And in some cases where God tells one of his servants to do something, he doesn't want that exact thing carried out. That's the contradiction.
Dude,
what is the straw man?
Abraham to do it, and then he told him not to do it. So he wanted.
Yeah, but it's not the case that God changed his mind, right?
There's no contradiction in that. He wanted both things.
Are you saying that God changed his mind?
No.
Okay, so if he didn't change his mind, then his mind was the same the whole time, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay.
So if his mind never changed, then it turns out from the original issuing of the command, he actually didn't want that thing to take place. So there's the contradiction.
It's not a contradiction. He wanted it. He wanted Abraham to sacrifice Isaac, and then he wanted to stop Abraham from sacrificing Isaac. There's no.
So you're saying he changed his mind?
Okay. Well, I guess you're just dead.
You just said he changed his mind.
No, you're just being unreasonable. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Good convo. Sorry that we couldn't get to an agreement or something.
All right. Well, maybe next time attack what the Bible actually says and not a straw man of it. No, it'll probably work out better for you. Good God. Welcome, guest.
What's up? You don't know how to pronounce dysfunctional?
Nope.
Okay.
God is your creator?
Hell no.
Okay. Why not?
My dad created me whenever he was in my mom for one too many seconds. You know what I mean?
Daddy issues? Yeah, I know. I understand. I used to have daddy issues, and then I became a Christian. So, like, maybe you should. You believe in evolution?
Yeah.
Maybe you should evolve into a Christian.
Sure. If I ever, here, this is how I feel about it. Like, if I'm ever on here because I've been on here before. So if I've ever on here again, remember me, okay? Because if I say I believe in God, call the cops. Because someone has, like, a gun to my head. Or, I'm sorry, like a pew-pew to my head.
Okay.
And, like, is forcing me to say it.
I don't think you can rationally deny God. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, why do you think God, like, what rational reason do you think God exists?
The transcendental argument for God? That,
So, you just make
say
up a
something-
reason just as he exists because I think it can exist.
No, he exists because, like, if we're going to say something's true, it has to correspond to reality. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, what part does supernatural experiences conform with reality?
Right. So,
Like, have you ever seen anyone walk on water?
no.
Have you ever seen anyone turn water into wine or come back to life like a zombie?
No.
Okay.
So where were we? Okay, so right. So to say something's true, it has to correspond to reality. Now, the problems can occur.
Yeah, I agree. God is not in reality, so he is not real.
If you deny God, then you wouldn't know anything's real. There would be no reality to talk about because unless
You can grandstand on that. You can grandstand on that idea on every single person that comes in here, but that doesn't make it true, pal.
It is true. It's true. It's true because I can demonstrate it's true with evidence.
Mars,
right?
Mars, be real.
I'm being real. If all we have is our logic and our observations of the world don't tell us what reality is.
Be real and concede that.
And our observations of the world don't tell us what reality is.
Be real and concede that you not understand your own reality.
Sure it does. Because you don't even know what reality is, right? Because our observations.
You're just.
Because you don't even know what reality is, right? Because our observations.
You're just grandstanding on that idea. You haven't demonstrated to me at all how I don't know my own reality.
Because
what part of belief in God distorts my senses enough to make me not know what reality I'm in?
Well, it just doesn't. It doesn't logically follow that because you sense something or you perceive something that the thing you perceive is actual. So, our observation.
You're just all you're doing is just affirming what you believe.
No.
You're not demonstrating anything, buddy.
I am demonstrating it, but you're just you.
Not at all.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, you can kick me and run.
Well, the problem is you don't care about evidence or what's true. You just care about what you want to be true. So you're ignoring what I'm presenting to you. That's the issue. Is that it's not a problem of my evidence or my argument. It's like you just don't want God to be true. So you're ignoring. You're being emotional. You're believing what you want, not what the evidence indicates.
So you think I'm being emotional right now?
Yes.
If you think I'm expressing any kind of like malice or anything, you're
I'm saying you're being emotional because you're ignoring evidence and you're believing what you want to be true rather than what the evidence.
How am I being emotional right now?
I'm explaining that. Because you're believing what you want.
No, you're just saying what I'm emotional about. You're not saying how I'm being emotional.
You're being emotional.
It seems like you're projecting your own emotions.
Oh. Do you process information more slowly than other people? Because I'm saying you're emotional in the sense that you believe what you want. You're not believing what the evidence says, right? So that's an emotional position. When we just believe what we want, we're being emotional. When we believe
Mars, I think it's really ironic that you say I'm emotional when you end a stream crying. Dude, you literally bawled your eyes out ending a fucking stream and you say I'm the emotional dude?
I was being sarcastic, dude. I'm a
Were
comedian.
you really? You
Yeah,
were being sarcastic.
yeah, I'm a
Dead
comedian.
ass.
I'm a
You're a
comedian. I realize
comedian?
that your worldview can't account for comedy because there's no scientific evidence of comedy. So it's
You
probably
thought
hard for you to like wrap your atheist brain around.
You know, I will say I did laugh. Like when it happened, I did laugh. So regardless of if you were being real or not, I laughed. So
Well, there we go. I'm just here to make people laugh because you know when you're laughing, you're not thinking about all the despair that you feel from not believing in Jesus, and you have like a brief moment of like hope.
yeah, you laugh. You made people. If you did that to make people laugh, you were doing that because you lost the argument. You were
How could
losing.
I
So I don't
lose
even
an
know
argument?
what it was about. You were losing so fucking bad, dude.
How could you even
Like
lose?
you were getting like that lady was being so kind, and you were just going nonstop, like hammering on her, and like it literally like you just got dog walked, and you had to sit there and pretend to be a crybaby to make people laugh.
So what objective standard are you appealing to when you said that like I lost the debate?
Bro, like you had to kick her. Like, like you literally kicked her and then you didn't take anybody. You literally kicked her and didn't take anybody else. Like, what other evidence do you need to see that like you're literally running away
So
from any conversation?
notice how you have no objective standard for like truth or like value judgments, but you're making. You think that's funny?
No, I you just pivot like
I'm not pivoting.
Like,
You're being completely arbitrary. You're just saying things. Who cares? Who cares about your opinion? We're here to debate.
yeah, literally that is literally your whole stance, dude. Like literally, you just saying that I cannot understand reality. When literally I just read you like a fucking book, and how could I do that if I don't even understand my own reality, dude?
All right. Well, I don't know. I think you're just very unique. Probably too unique for me. So maybe we should like. Can I move on to someone? Dave Long is asking.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, thank you for having me up.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I appreciate you. You're very unique, and I wish you well. Very, very unique. Welcome, Dave.
Hi.
Hi. So what's up? What you got, Dave? What you got?
Well, I mean,
Yeah, boy.
you're bringing atheists up and asking them questions, so figured I'd let you ask first.
Oh, okay. Do you accept God as your creator?
No.
Do you have like a rational reason to deny God?
Yeah, there's no factual evidence that he exists.
Okay, but 100 years ago, there was no factual evidence that DNA existed, yet DNA does exist, right?
Yeah, and we did research and development and figured it out through science.
Right, and it does. So it
What's your
doesn't
point?
follow. It doesn't follow logically that because there's no evidence of God, that therefore God doesn't exist.
No, I mean, but
Oh,
you
really?
guys seem to hammer it home.
So
You
well, there
guys
was no
hammer on it
evidence-
that he exists without any evidence. You guys hammer
So when
it
there was
home
no
and put down
evidence-
atheists and...
So when there was no evidence for DNA, DNA didn't exist. And then as soon as we got evidence for DNA, that's when DNA started existing.
No,
Is that
it
what you
wasn't
know?
discovered. It wasn't discovered yet.
Right. So maybe God's not discovered yet. Maybe there, just because there's no evidence for God, it doesn't follow that God doesn't exist. So that wouldn't be like a rationale to deny God.
Yeah, but nobody was going around causing wars and chaos over DNA and putting people down about it.
Well, no one was doing that over the Bible either.
Also, you seem to be... Really? Did you really just say that?
I really
With all
just-
seriousness? Straight-faced? Nobody's causing chaos and there's no harm caused from the Bible?
No, in fact, the Bible, there's humanitarian organizations exist because of the Bible, like the Red Cross. The Red Cross wouldn't exist without Christianity. It has Christian values.
Okay, yeah, you do have good... there are good organizations that come from Christianity, but there are just as many terrible ones.
Mm. I know. What is the terrible thing that Christians are doing?
Have you walked into a church and been judged?
Well, but
Have you
atheists.
walked down the street and gotten, looks from Christians walking out of a church?
Sure, there's a
What about
bunch
all
of.
the lynchings that happened in the 1920s by people who were good Christians? What about that?
They would have been hypocrites, right? Because the Bible says that we're supposed to love everyone and forgive and be humble.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not being. They're just Christians in name only.
Okay, so that's fair. But let's get back to the original point. Your whole evidence for God. Why don't we do that? Okay, so Christians are trying to discover evidence for God, and it still hasn't happened yet.
According to you,
Okay, what's your evidence for God?
God is necessary for evidence. So evidence.
No, real evidence. Real evidence. Facts. Hard evidence.
Yeah.
Factual hard evidence. Because you brought up DNA, there's hard evidence for DNA. What is your hard evidence for God?
It's a transcendental argument for God.
No, hard evidence, real.
That is hard out. It's like
No, it's not.
Sure it is. It's the best.
That is no, that is philosophical evidence.
Oh yeah. So what's wrong? You don't accept philosophical evidence?
No, it's not hard evidence.
So what are you, an empiricist?
I don't know what that means. So please explain. If you can't explain, give me hard evidence, explain that.
Wow. So you don't even know anything about evidence, but you're sure.
Okay, don't sideline. Don't sideline. People are allowed to not know things, and asking questions is a good thing in life. Don't act like that's a terrible thing. That's how you derail.
But when you're like, oh, there's no evidence for God, and then we find out a minute later that you don't even know what evidence is. You don't even know what empiricism means.
No, I know. No, you're trying to derail. Stop it.
Not trying to
Because I don't know terminology, you're trying to derail an argument.
We're talking about evidence. It's not derailing to discuss like what you don't
hard evidence. I want hard evidence. I want an example.
Yeah. Do you know what you like when you wake up in the morning and you're hard?
They can prove that there's DNA. They can show it.
I'll give you some hard evidence of God. You know how when you wake up in the morning and you're hard and it's like difficult to like pee? That's because of God.
That's hilarious. So you're going to childish jokes because you can't actually
hard evidence
put a fight in this debate. That's cute. That's cute.
Yeah. An erection requires the uniformity of nature. How are you going to have an erection without uniformity of nature?
No, that's just nature. That's just what happens when things evolve.
How do you explain
that's
the uniformity of nature?
There's no God necessary for that, man.
Bro, you can't even get an erection without God.
What are you talking about?
The fact you wanted hard evidence for God, right?
Man, you're so childish, dude.
You're the one who asked for hard evidence. I'm telling you.
That's nature. That's biology.
Uniformity of nature is required to get
I'm asking for God showing up on earth. Or him sending his son down. Historical hard evidence of God. Something that's real, tangible. Not just you reading a book.
Well, now you're being emotional because rather than deal with the hard evidence, you're just believing it.
Okay. You want to say somebody getting a hard on is proof.
Yeah, that can only happen if there's uniformity of nature.
That is the most backwards argument for God existing I've ever heard.
And I gave you hard evidence. What more do you want from me, man?
Man, you're childish. I can see why you get emotional.
What? I'm giving you evidence. You're just believing what you want to be true. That's emotional.
No, I'm believing reality. You read a book one time and thought it was the thing you needed to follow for the rest of your life.
So how do you account for erections in an atheist worldview? How do you ground erections?
Nature, it's biology, evolution. It was necessary for us to reproduce, so we evolved into something that did it.
You want to admit you don't know what you're talking about?
No, because you're... No. Oh, dude, you are a riot. You really are.
Thank you. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to move on.
Darth Dawkins' school really teaching you well?
Thank you. Yeah, we can take
Child.
I can take any fact and prove that God is necessary for that fact.
Really?
So you're done.
You can?
You're done. Yeah, I
Any
just did.
fact.
Yeah, I just did.
Me waking up each morning not believing in God. How is he necessary for that?
Yeah, so to deny God, you're gonna have to like the law of identity has to be true, right? And the law of identity needs an absolute identity statement to impose and secure the identity of everything. So what would be the absolute identity statement to negate the absolute identity statement of God?
If God were infallible, he would make everybody believe in him.
Exactly. And you can't answer my question. And so you don't want to
If
believe
God were infallible, if he were a true God, he'd make everybody believe in him because that would be easier, wouldn't it? Why wouldn't he do that?
Well, we can only know what God reveals, and he didn't reveal something stupid.
Through his magic book and his priesties. Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm gonna move on.
I went to a Catholic college, bud.
We're not going anywhere, so I'm going to probably move on. There's other people.
Yeah, because you have nothing, bud.
If that's what you think.
Childish.
Okay, well, you're a very unique person. You're very unique. Has anyone ever told you that you're unique? You're extremely unique. You're a unique.
Yeah, and you look like Hank Hill.
Okay, well, I wish you well. Thank you for coming.
I don't wish you well. Later.
All right. And what did I do to him? What did I do to him? Doesn't wish me well. What did I do to you, man? I was just chilling, man. I'm just proving God. Don't kill don't unalive the messenger. Don't unalive the messenger, guys. I'm just a messenger. God's true. There you go. Not my fault. It's not my fault. Jesus is true, okay? Sorry you guys don't like that, but it's real. All right? You're going to have to deal with it. Would you want people at your party that you forced to be there or that chose to come? I would want people that chose to come. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Richard? Everyone should follow Richard Double D's Statford. He's a Double D Richard. Richard does a really good live. He's a funny guy. If you like laughing, follow Richard. Welcome.
Hello. So I'm not atheist or agnostic, so I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. But I just, if you don't mind, I just had on here quickly. Comments, actually. There were so many things that he said. And he had pointed out evolution, which I'm assuming he's speaking of Darwinian evolution, which of course is a theory. But Darwinian evolution would teach that one thing becomes another thing, one kind becomes another kind. And obviously that has never happened in all of human existence. We can't observe it today. We can't observe it in any record. There is no records proving that, but yet he believes that in blind faith because that is something that he was taught, and he decided to believe it because it doesn't make him accountable to a creator. It allows him to live the life that he wants without any accountability. So I want to start there. But the second point I want to make, and then I'll hop off here, host, is in terms of Darwinian evolution, that would mean that everything came from nothing, but then we evolved to, as you had mentioned, men can get erections, right? And he says, well, that's part of evolution. And I would argue that, when did the evolved creature, human, let's say, but it's not a human, it's, it's just a cell. When did that cell get a mouth? When did that cell get a stomach? And without and I'm just going to be, over time, like if you get a stomach and it begins to eat, and there's waste in the stomach, but it doesn't have any way to release that waste, then it would cease to exist. The evolution would stop. It makes zero sense. It's illogical. And people that believe it, they're only believing it because they are taught that by a system that rejects God. And it rejects God for a couple reasons. One, because it doesn't make itself accountable to any moral authority. And the second reason is because God said that that's how man would be. And man does hate God. And that is why Dave Long had such hostility towards you. It is not because he has hostility towards you. It's because he's hostile to God. And God says that all men reject him. And that no one comes to the Father, or no one comes to Christ unless he is drawn. And we have to be given ears to hear. God is sovereign over all creation. That is not, there's no debate to that. People want to think of God as if that he was created, that he created himself. He's eternal. He's self-existent, and he is confined. His characteristics are confined by who he is. So there is no evil in him. He is good. He is love. He is justice. He is those things, all the things that make up God. And he cannot be anything other than what he is. Now he, as I said, he is sovereign over all creation. He can use the evil of people to carry out his judgments, but he does not cause evil. So,
I agree.
and I just want to say to anyone that's here, if you've been hurt by religion, you've been hurt by people, we are all human beings. We are flawed. We're in desperate need of a savior. The Bible points to Jesus Christ. If you are hostile to God, today is the day of salvation. Humble yourself before God and ask him to reveal himself to you. Pick up the Bible, humble yourself and read it. The whole scriptures, all it does, it points to a need for a savior for us. It points to our need for the God who created us. It resonates as truth in a world of deceit, because we are constantly bombarded with deceit. We are being lied to every day. We are lied to by people that say that they love us. But God is true. He is true. And he does not lie. He keeps his promises. He will save you. All you have to do is believe that Jesus died on the cross, that he was buried, and that he rose on the third day, according to the scriptures. Believe it and be saved. You don't have to change who you are. You don't have to stop doing what you're doing. Just believe in him. Be transformed, and then know the truth and live in the truth. All right, that's it, host. God bless you, brother.
Thank you, Blizzy. I would just say one thing about what you said. I agree with pretty much everything there. Just like when you started out and you said, "Oh, evolution is just a theory," that there's a difference between, like, when we talk about theories on an everyday level, we're saying, like, we're basically using the word theory to mean hypothesis. So a scientific theory is not the same thing as like a theory. When I say, like, oh, I have this theory that XYZ, and I'm hypothesizing, right? But scientific theories like evolution are based on facts. Now, I think evolution is a scientific fact, but I don't believe it's true. So just because something is a fact, we're not obligated to believe the fact, right? Because there's been lots of things that were facts historically that now we know are not true. So fact doesn't entail true. So I believe evolution's a fact. I don't believe evolution's true. So I wouldn't go the, like, oh, it's just a theory. I would just avoid that, because people can kind of call you out on that like understand the terminology. But other than that, I agree with everything you said there. So thank you. Welcome.
What's up?
Just dealing with the emotional atheists, man. They're crazy.
So I think I want to ask, you were saying that you believe atheists are choosing not to believe. Is that what you're saying?
They're believing what they want to be true as opposed to what the evidence indicates is true. So that's why I say they're
But do you think
emotional.
do you think that's a choice?
Yeah. You don't think you
So
can
we can
feel?
choose what
Yeah. You don't think you
so
can
we can
feel?
choose what
Oh yeah.
so I really disagree with choose what
Oh yeah.
so I really disagree with that, but so if I told you right
That's
so if I told you right
self-defeating.
now, I really disagree with that, but so if I told you right
That's
so if I told you right
self-defeating.
now,
If you
no, just
disagree
think
with
about
that, it's
this.
self-defeating.
No, listen, think about this. If I told you there was a leprechaun in my house right now
Okay.
and he's my God, could
Uh-huh.
you choose to believe that?
Sure.
So you would wholeheartedly, genuine take that as fact.
No, I choose not to believe it, but if I wanted to, I could.
Can you, but this is what I'm trying to say. Can you truly believe something even if you know it's not true?
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, so
You
I don't think you understand what I'm saying, but
well, I don't know what you mean by truly there. I mean,
what I mean is
depends on
that
how you flesh out what you mean by truly believe. But we believe things that aren't true all the time. We self-deceive ourselves. Everyone self-deceives. There isn't one person alive that is completely self-aware.
okay, so let me ask you something else. So what has led you to believe in God?
Well, initially I believed in God because I saw like the when I read the gospel, it moved my heart, and I seen in my life how like the power of forgiveness helped me heal relationships with loved ones. And so God helped like heal my relationship with my father, like specifically. I had daddy issues, and Christianity solved my daddy issues. And so I'm always going to be grateful to God for that. But after becoming a Christian, I realized that we can actually objectively prove it as well.
So how are you objectively proving it?
Transcendental argument for God would be an objective proof that Christianity is true.
So can you explain that to me?
Sure. So basically, the idea is that if all we have is to go on to know the world, we can only know the world through like our logic and reason or our observations of the world. Those are the two main things we prove things. It's called rational proof and empirical proof. But they don't work. So we need more knowledge than what we have with just our logic and our observations. Logic and observations is not enough knowledge to like explain our experience. We need another type of knowledge. We need knowledge from God in order to make sense of anything that we experience.
So do you think that you're kind of filling in the gaps here
No.
with God?
No, it's not. It's the opposite of God of the gaps. So God of the gaps is this idea where like there's a phenomenon like lightning, as everyone always talks about lightning. So, we don't know what causes lightning, therefore God causes lightning. Well, now science tells us that lightning is just like a transfer of electrons. So it's not God, it's just a transfer of electrons.
Wait, okay, so hold on, but you just said we can't trust our senses to come to truth, right? That's basically what you're saying.
If you're not a Christian, yeah. If you're a Christian, you can. So
Okay, so this is so let's break this down for a moment.
okay.
You're saying we have these senses, we have these things that, empirical, rational evidences for coming to truth. But we need another truth. And then you're putting God there. Why are we jumping to God? That's what I'm not understanding.
Because
Like, explain to me how that's not a God of gaps, because you're literally saying there's something missing, we don't understand it, God.
God of the gaps has to do with what we observe. I observe lightning, can't explain what I observe, therefore God explains what I observe. I'm arguing that to explain anything fundamentally before explanations, God is necessarily true in order to explain anything. So God of the gaps is, we can't explain X, therefore God explains X. I'm saying we can't explain anything without God as a foundation for explanations. So it's like the opposite of the God of the gaps.
Okay, so imagine this. Let's say there's two islands, okay, with people. One island is full of religious people or Christians, whatever religion, it really don't matter. Right? Let's just say they believe in God.
This is proving God, by the way, but go ahead.
Well, think about this now.
Yeah.
Both islands,
This is proving God, by the way, but go ahead.
Well, think about this now.
Yeah.
Both islands, let's just assume, and there's a red fruit. Let's just say it's a fucking apple, okay? So there's an apple on both these islands.
Okay.
Both groups say, oh, this is red. Okay? So there's an apple on both these islands.
Okay.
Both groups say, oh, this is red. This is an apple.
Uh-huh.
Right? Are you saying that the religious group somehow understands more, even though they both come to the same realization that this is an apple, this is red, this is a fruit?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, like, if there was no God, we couldn't know anything. But we do know things, so there must be a God. Because I'm not saying that you have to believe in God to know things. I'm saying the fact that you know things proves God.
So,
because
look,
God's necessary for knowledge.
I'm really trying to understand where we're getting this gap. Like, I'm genuinely trying to understand, because this seems like nonsense. Like, I'm just being real with you. You're telling me that
it's Romans 1.
That because this apple is red, there is God. Is that what you're telling me right now?
Yes. Red, you can't have red in the atheist world because red is universal. Atheism can't explain universals. You have no concrete universal to ground universals. I have a concrete universal, so I can talk about red. I can talk about two. What the fuck is red or two in atheism?
Wait, what do you mean? That's just language describing reality.
Well, the language refers to things that exist in reality. If the language, if there's nothing in reality that the word refers to, then it doesn't have any meaning.
Yeah, but this is what I'm not understanding. So you're saying atheists can't make sense of red or two, for example.
Yep.
But we can. Like, I'm an atheist. I understand what red and two is.
Yeah, but
we both share a language.
Your worldview, your position, your worldview, atheism can't explain what those things are.
Yeah, we can.
No, because they're universal. They're universal. You can't explain.
Okay. Think of it this way: if
you need a concrete, dude, what is the concrete universal to explain universals? God.
What do you mean Dude,
I mean, what is the universal that's actual, so we can have universals in reality?
Let me ask you a question. If there's no humans on Earth, are there still apples on Earth?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's universal, right? You're saying there's truth outside of our logic and understanding. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so why do we need God? You're not getting that, bro.
Explain that to me.
I just explained to you that there are truths even in the atheist worldview. Even if there's nobody here, there's still truths.
No, in atheist worldview, you wouldn't know what reality is. You're in the Matrix. Like, Neo, have you seen the Matrix and Neo?
How are we jumping to the Matrix? I've seen
Matrix.
Matrix.
Because you're an atheist, so you're in the Matrix. You've seen the movie The Matrix.
Yes, I've seen The Matrix, but
Neo,
you're jumping around, man.
Neo thinks that he's in a world that's physical. There's an external physical world. And he only finds out when he takes the red pill that there's no physical world, you're in a matrix. So his whole life was a lie. Because he was living this fantasy where he was living in this external real world, but it wasn't. It was just a simulation. It wasn't even a real world. So when Neo is talking about an apple, there's no apple there. It's just like a binary. It's ones and zeros, and right? It's a code. It's not an actual apple. So how do you know if atheism is true, that when you look at an apple, it's not just a code for an apple, it's an actual physical apple? You wouldn't be able to know unless you got the red pill. You know what the red pill is?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but
the Bible's the red pill.
Okay, the thing for starters is I think we can both agree that we both cannot 100% claim something to be true that we can't necessarily prove, right?
Sure.
Because
we have to prove anything we think is true.
Yeah, I know, but for example, like you're saying the Bible, right? Like this is the red pill.
Yep.
How are we getting there, bro? Like, I really don't. I think you're having a little cognitive dissonance. I don't even think you're being disingenuous with me. I think you're just like not seeing a little cognitive dissonance. I don't even think you're being disingenuous with me. I think you're just like not seeing filling in something. You're just adding God to things, and I don't understand why we're doing that, because we can all not seeing filling in something. You're just adding God to things, and I don't understand why we're doing that, because we can all understand
we can all to escape the matrix. You're stuck.
And why we're doing that, because we can all understand we can all
to escape the matrix. You're stuck in the matrix. The Bible gets you out of the matrix. If you're in the matrix, you don't know what's true. Neo didn't know the truth, did he? His whole life was a lie because he didn't know he was in the matrix.
So how do you know this is fake? Neo,
his whole life was a lie because he didn't know he was in the matrix.
So how do you know this is fake?
Do you understand Neo's life was fake and a lie? You understand that, right? Until he took the red pill, and then it became a fake lie, fantasy. Atheists aren't in the matrix. Atheism is fantasy. Only Christians are realists. You have to be a Christian to be a realist. If you're not a Christian, you're not a realist. You're in some goofy idealist, whatever, like fantasy person.
So what did people do before Christianity was here?
Christianity was always here. God walked with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden.
Why is that true? What makes you believe that? What's your proof for that?
The Bible says Jesus was with Adam.
Okay, and the Quran says that, he split the moon.
Yeah, but the Quran says that like Allah is deceptive, and if your God's deceptive, that puts you in the same position as the atheist. So the Muslim is in the same position as the atheist. They're in the matrix. They're just in a Muslim matrix.
Whoa, hold on. You understand? You and Muslims believe in the same God, right? Y'all just disagree on where. How do you not believe the same God? Y'all both follow Abraham, right?
So what?
Y'all both believe in the Adam and Eve.
They claim they claim these things, but I don't believe them. I can say I'm Jeff Bezos. Doesn't mean
what makes yours true? You're literally just telling me the Bible says.
Transcendental argument for God proves Christianity is true.
No. Okay, let me explain this again. I understand you're making a transcendental argument for God in general. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, okay, there's God. What makes it your God? There's so many gods, man.
Transcendental argument for God makes it my God.
How does the transcendental argument mean Jesus and the Bible and everything's true? Explain
argument that. Comes from the Bible. It proves the Bible.
Where does it come from the Bible?
Romans 1.
Romans 1. Okay, let me pull up Romans 1. What kind of Bible version do you like?
Doesn't matter. Do the NIV.
NIV?
Yeah.
Okay, let me... look, man, I'm genuinely trying to hear you out here. It's just... So I'm at Romans 1.
Yes. I think I can't remember where it starts. There's just a section called the wrath of God at the top of the section. You see that?
Is it Romans 1 and then something else? Because I'm just seeing.
It's like Romans 1. It's like either 18 or 20 is when it starts, and it talks about like
God's wrath against sinful humanity. So
Yeah.
let's read along here, and I'm keeping an open mind. I'm trying to hear you out, man. I'm trying to be genuine with this. Okay. The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who
Amen.
suppress the truth by their wickedness.
Amen.
Since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world's God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. So this is your claim.
Yeah, no one can rationally defend the denial of God. God is so obvious and plain to everyone.
So if I took away the Bible, like the Bible didn't exist, could you come to know the same God?
Yeah.
How?
Through natural revelation, the fact that I'm made in God's image.
So you would just know about Jesus. You would know about King David and Solomon. You would know about Noah's Ark, all that.
No, I would just know about the Creator. Because the world exemplifies that which actualized it, or that which created it.
So all the rules, the laws don't matter from the Bible is what you're telling me.
The rules, and I wouldn't say they don't matter.
Well, you're saying you could come to understand the same God without it, so why do we even need it at that point?
Because it has knowledge, the Bible has knowledge about God that we don't get from like the world or...
Yeah, and I would agree that brings more knowledge to your God, but that knowledge that it brings, I think plainly states that you would need the Bible. You would need this context to truly believe. Like, what about baptism? What about the 10 Commandments? What about all these things? You would not know your set of morals without your Bible.
We might need the Bible to like believe in specifically the person or know things about Jesus, but you don't need it to know about the Creator. The Creator is obvious to everyone. If you're in a jungle, in a tribe, or anyone.
Why do you think that's obvious to them?
Because like it was like I was explaining the what we experience, the fundamental parameters of reality are only explained by God. If you deny God, reality falls apart. It doesn't make sense. So it's obvious the invisible qualities of God, like the consistency in the physical world, or the consistency in like math or reason. There would be no consistency without God. So that invisible quality we all experience makes it obvious that God exists. There's like no way out of that. The atheist cannot respond to this argument.
So this is what you're saying. You're saying there cannot be any order or creation without God.
Yeah.
So some random Amazon hunter-gatherer that's uncontacted right now understands there's God.
Yes.
Do you think there's a possibility that religion is used as a way to explain things we don't understand?
No.
So you don't think at any point, any religion, its origins or anything have to do with explaining things we can't?
What's that?
What I'm saying is, I asked you if you think there's a possibility that Amazon hunter-gatherer believes in God because he doesn't have an understanding of the world around him. Do you think that's a possibility?
What, God of the gaps? I mean, maybe, I guess. But I just think it's his invisible qualities are obvious. So no one can...
So what are his invisible qualities?
Like I talked about this, like the uniformity of nature, logic, math, morality, beauty.
So what do you mean uniformity of nature? Like, are you saying that it's like perfect or like?
That the future resembles the past. That there's like in science, you have to be able to repeat the experiment and get the same results. If you got different results every time you did an experiment, you couldn't do science, right?
I mean, not necessarily, but
Yes, necessarily. If every time you do an experiment, you get a different result, you can't do science. Science requires there to be consistent results.
No, consistent results in
Yes.
science. Okay, can I
Yes,
speak? Can I speak?
you have to be able to repeat. Well, if you're going to lie,
I'm not lying.
you have to
Listen,
repeat. You have to be able to
I'll
repeat
let
the
you
scientific
cry for a moment so I can
experiment.
speak, okay?
You have to be able to repeat an experiment and get the same results. If every time you do an experiment, there's no consistency, you get different results, you can't do science in that world. And that's the atheist world.
Can I speak now?
So, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you're not going to interrupt, right? You're going to let me speak? We're both big boys here.
It depends on what you say. I'm the host, so I can interrupt.
I mean, I understand that, but if you want to have a genuine conversation, let's have a genuine conversation. Like, I'm trying not to interrupt you. I'm trying to be considerate. I'm listening to your everything. All I'm asking is the same respect. It's not very Christian, man.
Dude, don't tell me how to be Christian. It's not very atheist of you to tell me how to be a Christian.
I don't have to tell you. Your Bible tells you. It says, you know, you got to turn the other cheek, man. So am I going to speak or are we going to have an issue? I don't have to tell you. Your Bible tells you. It says, you know, you got to turn the other cheek, man. So am I going to speak or are we going to have an issue?
Meant to show you my butt.
Well,
how do you know it doesn't mean that? To show you my butt.
Well,
how do you know it doesn't mean that? I should
okay, so we ready?
Anyways, go with your question. So what were you going to say?
Well,
how do you know it doesn't mean that? I should
okay, so we ready?
Anyways, go with your question. So what were you going to say?
Okay, so you're saying that for science to work, everything has to be repeatable. And that's the thing that you're not understanding. This is how I know you're not getting science, because the reason we repeat things in science is to see if these things are true or consistent. Sometimes there's inconsistency. Sometimes the experiment's done wrong. There's lots of variables and things that you need to take into account. That's why science is always changing and developing better. That's why, back in the day, in medieval times, when people had schizophrenia and stuff, we thought they were possessed by demons.
You're not addressing the problem. There has to be consistency to do the experiment. You can't do the experiment in a world with no consistency. It's that simple.
So give me an example when science is not working.
I think science works because Christianity is true. If atheism were true, we could not do science. Christianity is necessary to make science possible.
Okay, be honest here. Be honest. We both know that there are so many atheist scientists and different religions, Hindu scientists, Buddhists. They don't need Christianity to do science.
Yes,
I
they
don't
do.
know why you're saying.
Science is a theistic concept. There has to be some sort of unifying principle to connect our mind to the world. Without a unifying principle, we couldn't know the world. And you have to know the world to do science. So science is a Christian or theistic concept. You can't. Atheism would make science impossible.
Bro, think about this now. So you're saying, think about this now. So you're saying,
controversial. You're just a low information person. Like, this is what I'm saying is like, duh.
Okay, no, it's not low.
Controversial. You're just a low information person. Like, this is what. No, you are low information. You don't understand what's going on in this conversation.
Okay, no, it's not low information.
No, you are low information. You don't understand what's going on in this conversation.
No, I understand
No, you
100%.
don't. You're lost in the sauce.
You have the God of the gaps going hard, man. No, I understand
No, you
100%.
don't. You're lost in the sauce.
You have the God of the gaps going hard, man. Like
It's not God of the
is
gap.
not
I explained it. The only gap is between your ears, right? That's the only gap
this
in this conversation is between your ears. I'm saying there's nothing in your head that's empty.
explain
It's a gap.
to me.
Here's the gap
So
right there.
let's think about this. How does Romans 1:18 tell us that this theory is from the Bible?
It's not a theory, it's an argument.
Okay, this argument. How does this make this argument true?
The argument is true
Because the Bible said so? Is that what you're telling me? Because the Bible said so? Be honest. We're all big boys here.
Well, as a Christian, the Bible is my verification principle. So Christians use the Bible to verify if something's true or not true. So what would be your verification principle that's not the Bible?
Okay, think about this. Let me give you a counter argument. My standard evidence, the fact that this is your claim that you're making. You're saying science real, so God real.
Yes.
So tell me when I'm wrong in this. Science real, God not real. Tell me how you can disprove that.
Okay, yes. So if there's no God, you wouldn't be able to explain the uniformity of nature like I keep talking about. So Bertrand,
Hold on. My claim is science explains everything, actually.
science does not explain the uniformity of nature.
No, I've grounded it. My science explains how everything's here. You're not hearing me out, man.
So do you think lying to me, do you think lying in a debate, that's your strategy now? Or are you just going to lie to me?
I'm not lying.
I've done research on the topic. So science cannot prove the uniformity of nature. It assumes it's true. And if we can't justify the uniformity of nature, then no scientific claim is justified and science is not possible. This is what Bertrand Russell said, who's an atheist philosopher. Okay, so I'm not just making this up. It's not just my opinion. What I'm saying is not controversial. The only reason you're not accepting what I'm saying is because you don't want it to be true and you want to suppress the truth in your unrighteousness.
No, you're not hearing me. Science says.
Right, well, I'm going to move on.
Run away, baby, run away.
Okay,
is that what you're going to do? No,
but you're just lying to me. You're just lying.
Okay, so you see how absurd the argument is, then, right?
It's not absurd. You don't even understand it. It's like going over your head.
No, you're running away because you know I flipped the script on you.
Dude? You're just
I flipped the script on you, and now you're in the fucking corner.
Do you talk to people that lie to you?
You're lying to me. You're telling me there's a.
Thanks for coming. You're a very unique person, and I wish you well. You know, you're just way too unique for me, man. I don't know what to tell you. Very unique. That guy was unique, huh? What a unique gentleman. Welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to with that last guy.
Yeah, I only do like one-on-ones because like everyone's talking over each other, and then I have to like babysit, and I don't like doing that. So I just do one-on-ones. Sorry.
Yeah, but like what he was saying in.
Yeah, go ahead.
What he was saying in his last argument there, it's like he's missing the fact that our argument in this is that we have a rational justification for why we believe facts to be facts, whereas he doesn't. And so any worldview he tries to propagate basically falls flat on its face. And he was just saying, oh, well, science explains the not God world. He was just, it's like, okay, well, can you rationally explain that through? No, he can't, right? And so that's the difference is he doesn't have any justification for what actualizes existence at its smallest scale and grandest scale, whereas we do.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yes.
So that's the main thing that he was missing is he thinks we're just making empty claims, But no, it's a rational justification. If he can explain how it's not rational, I'd be happy to hear him out. But yeah.
Well, he started at the end. He started just lying and saying like science proves the uniformity of nature, which we know is not true. So when someone's lying to you, it's like, what do you do? Like, I can't.
Yeah.
You're not being.
Well, he might legitimately think that science explains the uniformity of nature, but I bet if we push him on that, like, okay, explain how science explains that, he won't have an answer, right?
Well, it's not. Yeah, because there is. We know that it can't. It's not a controversial.
Yeah.
So.
Right. All right. I'm a hop down, but
okay. Thanks, man.
God bless.
Yeah. God bless. Sorry, guys. I wish I knew who requested an order, but it doesn't tell me. So I'm just kind of like taking whoever's at top. Welcome.
Hello. How you doing?
Well, how are you?
Good. So I've been watching for a while. It's been a hot minute since my philosophy 200, 300, 400 classes. But I don't want to. These types of discussions are like chess or like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Like you play the opening of Tag or Transcendental Argument for God, and I have to bring out Hume or Kant or something, and then you have to play cosmological argument. I don't want to do any of that, right? So let's pretend we did that. You win. I'm now a deist, and I believe in a God.
Yeah.
You rhetorically, you got me there. I'm the first person in the world who has been made. Hopefully, I'll be the first person in the world who is made Christian through rhetorical and ontological discussion, but we'll see. Whoever can remember what I'm supposed to say after you say this and I say this. But I'm a deist now, and I have special revelation, which is cool for me. You don't have it. It's just special to me. But my deity snapped his fingers a long time ago, and what we perceive as the Big Bang is him just sort of setting the universe in order. And then we, with a a rule set that guides its the mechanical how everything works, right? What we would ascribe to physics or quantum physics or whatever. But this rule set, he kind of snapped it into existence and then walked away. And I don't know what he's doing. He hasn't said anything since. How do we then have a conversation? How do we go from there all the way to Christianity?
Yeah, it's the transcendental argument for God doesn't prove like deism. It specifically proves Christianity. So
I would say it doesn't. I don't think it's a satisfactory answer. So do you have another one?
No, because
do we want to go? I mean, let's just say I believe in like an Aquinian, like a Thomistic, like first mover. And I'm like, okay, a first mover. It doesn't necessarily mean like the God of the Bible first mover, but I'll give you a first mover, a God, a being. I don't necessarily think he's personable or interacts with us much, but something snapped it into existence.
But then I can just say, like, how do you know that? And you'd have no way to know that's true.
I have special revelation.
No, well then that's not deism.
That's true. I did. Yeah, that would be true. Okay, so it's theistic, but only to me. I'm precept. So I'm the precept now, and I have special revelation.
Well, I would just say, like, well, as a Christian, I have these tangible things, like the Bible's tangible. There's like the history of the church, and then there's like concrete metaphysical realities that indicate the Christian God. So all these tangible things, and I put me in contact with the truth. Like, why would I believe you're like, oh, I just made up this thing, God, and this is what I believe? Like, there's no reason.
Could you know?
Yeah, because
ontologically, could you know?
Yeah, there can only be because there can only be one metaphysical reality. Like the Earth can't exist and not exist at the same time. So there's
what about like quantum mechanics?
I don't know anything about quantum mechanics.
So I would imagine, and I don't necessarily. I mean, I would say I'm from a pop sci standpoint, but like, the mini worlds theory is probably not something you're into.
I'm not into science at all, actually.
Gotcha. That's fine. You don't have to be. You are definitely into philosophy, and I get that. But that's why I want to have these like. So ontologically, I don't know. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Well, I'm only in philosophy to like debate atheists. Like, I'm not really that into like secular philosophy.
Yeah, I'm an agnostic, I guess. So I wouldn't say I'm an atheist, but I used to be Christian. I went to Bible school. I have the Tetragrammaton tattooed on my arm. None of that is credential, just like context, right?
Right.
Okay, so a deity snapped this into existence. I say everything that humans are doing now when they say we're doing science is just sort of making sense of the order and ascribing names like physics or mathematics to the order. You would call it the uniformity of nature. I could say like it'd be the necessity of nature. Or sorry, you would say that like God is the only reason that you would have to make sense of that uniformity. And I'll say, okay, we'll grant you that. I've got my God. He snapped it into existence. We're just describing the rule set that he set out from the beginning, a rule set that has been in motion for however long scientists think the universe has been around, from the Big Bang through evolution now. I still don't see how we get to Christianity from an ontological or rhetorical standpoint and without any circular reasoning.
You don't understand how the tag gets to circularity or Christianity? Sorry.
I think tag can get you to a number of places, and that's why I don't find it.
No.
I know you have a tautology around it, and that's fine. I just don't accept it. We'll have to move on from tag.
No, but it specifically proves Christianity. So the idea.
Okay, well, I'll buy. Oh my God, I can't believe we're doing this. All right, let me go dust off my philosophy 300 brain. Let's hear it. I don't know if I actually care, but I'm curious.
When we talk about a world view, it's like how we interpret reality, epistemic and ethical assumptions. If your foundational commitments are those things, that constitutes your worldview. So the tag is arguing that as a Christian, I get my ontology, my epistemology, and my ethics all come from the Bible. So we have like a unified, holistic, built worldview that's everything's like connected and it works. And when we compare that worldview to any other model of reality or worldview, it's the only worldview that can make sense of our experience. All the other worldviews like destroy knowledge and truth foundationally, so they can't be true. It's like impossibility to the contrary.
How if I believe, let's just say, that a deity snapped the world into existence and everything that scientists currently believe now or are figuring out, because I don't think science necessarily cares about trying to prove, they're trying to explain and ascribe not meaning to, they leave that to the philosophers, but just describe it in general, right? Like they want to be able to sort of put their finger on it as much as you possibly could. How is mine not sufficient compared to yours?
Because like science will give us like data, but science won't tell us like things like we ought to believe the data, or we ought to be consistent, or like we ought. The scientific method won't tell us how to interpret the data, what the data means, and so
does the data need to be interpreted?
Yeah,
it does. Why?
Because without interpretation, the data wouldn't have any meaning, and it can only have.
Why do you have to give data meaning? Isn't data just data?
Because like think about like a fossil, right? A fossil is a piece of data, but the fossil doesn't like have a mind or a voice. It doesn't go, "Hi, I'm a fossil. I'm 2 million years old."
I get you.
So we have to interpret. Okay, we have this data. What does the data mean? And we use that with.
We don't have to, but are you saying we want to?
Well, if we don't, then the data doesn't mean anything. For the data to
I mean, it doesn't have to have meaning. It just exists. It just is.
What?
Hey, man, we're talking ontology here. I was just saying, like, data doesn't need to be interpreted. Data exists outside of interpretation.
Okay, well, then
I wanted to point out a difference between it needs to be interpreted or needs to be or we want it to. If we want to say, I want to know why, then that's a completely different ontological.
If you take the position where it doesn't have meaning, now we can't understand. There's no intelligibility. We can't understand the world now. The world.
What if I didn't need to? Do I need to understand the world?
To argue, yeah.
Oh, I'm not arguing, man. I'm just a being existing in this thing that a deity snapped into existence. Well, whatever,
We're in a debate right now.
I know, and I'm doing a thought experiment, right? You can see that this is not what I actually believe. This is all rhetorical, correct?
When you come to the debate, you're going to believe there's objective truth. If there's no objective truth that we share, there's no reason to argue. So you'd be contradicting yourself by debating.
No, I don't think it's contradictory. It's the way I
Yes,
like
it's
to think about
contradictory.
things is through
No.
rhetoric. Okay, so I'll grant you that. Sorry. Okay, I won't debate the way I'll debate the way you would like me to. Okay, so again, then I'll re-ask my question. I got us off into a tangent. I apologize. I will stick to the way you want it. How I said a deity snapped us into existence and walked away. All we can do as these evolutionary whatevers who have sort of
No.
achieved consciousness can look around and try to. We look around, we do see, oh, there is order, right? There is order, there are things. And I just ascribe to this deity that snapped us into existence. You want to only ascribe it to the Christian God, and I'm just curious how we get there.
Yeah, could we know any? If God purposes that the world not know Him, could we know God?
If a God purpose, no, I think if a God did not want to be known, he could not be known.
Exactly. So we can only know God if God takes the initiative to reveal Himself to us. And that's what we have in Christianity. We have a God that takes initiative to reveal Himself as the God with the perfect attribute set to explain our experience. And so to deny that, it's just, you're just making things up. If you're talking about a God that you don't have revelation for, then you're just making it up.
Doesn't that go against your first tag argument though? Like you're saying, like, I don't need God to reveal Himself to me. He's revealed to me in creation.
No, we're saying, Tag is saying that revelation is necessary. That
Is necessary. Okay, what about cosmological then? Are you a cosmological argument fan?
No,
I'll give you tag. I don't care about tag.
the cosmological is a fallacious argument. There's an equivocation fallacy because they go from natural cause to supernatural cause. That's equivocation.
So you're solely tag when it comes down to rhetorical.
Well, I mean, I could talk about other evidences for God, but the problem is we disagree about evidence. So we have to deal with the foundational disagreement over what evidence is.
It's so tough. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It got quiet, and I thought you were done. I heard what you said though.
Okay.
I think as an atheist, as somebody who like wishes he could go back to believing, and I still hold Christ on the Mount as beautiful and something I ascribe to and something I try to do every day. As someone I think who is a seeking being, it's really not useful that if I'm like have, let's say, character problems with the God of the Old Testament or whatever, that we have to go all the way back to meta ethics before we can ever get back to like the discussion at hand. You know what I mean?
No, because we have to deal with the meta first. If we have a.
It's so, I mean, but who actually, aside from philosophy bros, thinks like that? Have you brought somebody to Christ through tag?
I'm not really trying to bring people to Christ.
That's fair. But do you think it's useful? I guess if you don't care, then the question's moot. I guess my point is just like I don't find it satisfying. Um, we could like again, it's rhetorical Yu-Gi-Oh at that point. I activated your trap card. I know what you're going to play right out of the gate, and so I'm just like, where can I as a seeking being go from here? I don't think tag is sufficient enough. I think actually to strong man your argument, I think you're supposed to bring up like God not being a God of confusion, right? Like again, I'll give you you're allowed to be. I'll give you I'm not going to call you out on the absolute circular reasoning you have to do, but
There's no
you know, God, I know you believe that the God not being a God of confusion, right, would be I think that's like Colossians 1 somewhere. Like that would be a uniformity of nature suggestion, right? That I think that a Christian presupposition, or somebody who follows like Bond would find useful, right? Would that be fair?
I never cite that passage, so I don't know what that's from.
Oh, well, go look it up. It's a really good one. I think if are you a fan of like Greg Bonson and like like Van Til?
Yeah.
Like, have you read those guys? Yeah. I think Van Til made that point, right? Like, I think it's in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I just wanted to hop in because like, I don't know, I wanted to have this like choose your own adventure, right? Like I can see what you're doing with other people who aren't in who aren't epistemologically on the same level or philosophically on the same level as you are. They don't know that they're playing against a stacked deck of rhetorical tricks. I've done it a long time ago.
I'm not doing any tricks, and I'm not even that good at philosophy.
No, but I do think you see it as like if you worked in like an IT call center, and somebody calls and says, "Hey, I have a problem with my mouse." Then you bring out you bring out a flow chart and you say like, "Oh, okay, well, here's the first step we're going to do. And if you say X, Y, or Z, then I go here." Right? Like you sort of have this like conversation planned out in a sort of choose your own adventure path when it comes to the way that you want to explain your ideas.
No.
Maybe you're not aware of it at all, but that is what it is.
It's not. No, that's not true at all.
You start with this opening of tag. I then go, or if I was a philosophy bro still, who cared? Then I'm going to go, oh, he brought out tag. That also means he's probably got this in his deck. That means I have to remember this, and this from Kant or Hume or whatever. And if I bring that up, he's going to bring this up. At the end of the day, man, like I wish there was Christ. How do we get? We can't.
What? He just reveals it to us, and it's obvious.
I know that you say that, and I know that like
rationally deny it. Like, can you rationally deny
from a tautological standpoint? From a tautology, you can say that. From a useful standpoint, as a spiritual being,
can you rationally deny Christ and his identity claim?
The historical aspect, the historical Jesus.
No.
Can I deny historical Jesus?
No. Jesus is God. Can you rationally deny Jesus is God?
I don't need to. I don't believe that Jesus was God, so I don't need to. I don't think that God sacrificed himself to himself.
So
why was Christ necessary?
Would you concede your position's irrational then?
Is it irrational for me to say I don't?
Would you concede your position's irrational then?
Is it irrational for me to say I don't believe? Guess probably under. I know what you're going to say, but go ahead and say it.
Well, I'm not. I was just gonna. I don't think you can rationally deny Jesus.
I know what you're going to say, but go ahead and say it.
Well, I'm not. I was just gonna. I don't think you can rationally deny Jesus as God.
Tell me how.
Because you need an absolute identity statement.
Yeah. It all goes. It all goes back. All goes back to meta ethics. This is the. I hope that when
you deny God, God's the absolute identity statement, so you have to replace that with another absolute identity statement.
My God is a deity who snapped us into existence and then beat it, and also I might have special revelation.
You're just making that up. That's just a lie. So we can't.
No, it's a rhetorical device. It's a rhetorical device.
No, it's just lying. That's called an ad hoc rescue fallacy.
No. I'm just, you are a debate, bro. I love it. I haven't seen you guys on
rescue fallacy.
I will take it. I was just laying out a retort. There's no way that if you're a presuppositionalist and I'm a presuppositionalist, but we differ, that we're ever going to be able to come to a consensus. Or not a consensus. That's not what I'm looking for. We're not going to be able to resolve it.
It's because you don't want Jesus to be true, and you.
We're not going to be able to resolve it.
It's because you don't want Jesus to be true. And you.
My gosh, I could start crying right now. I want Jesus to be true.
No, you're suppressing the truth and unrighteousness.
My gosh, I could start crying right now. I want Jesus to be true.
No, you're suppressing the truth and unrighteousness.
I want Christ to be true.
No.
How could you possibly say that of me?
No, you're suppressing the truth and unrighteousness.
I want Christ to be true.
No.
How could you possibly say that of me?
That's my whole job. Is like I'm not trying to convince you.
How dare you?
I'm not trying to convince you that
holy
you're Christian. I'm just trying to wake you up that look, you're biased. You're believing what you want. You're not believing the evidence. That's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to do here. You're just.
But your evidence starts at tag, and unless we can get there, we're never getting to Christ.
Starts at tag. Yeah, the only way we can prove God is if God.
Well, then I guess we're not going to do it for me today. If we have to start it in tag, and I have to believe that tag.
Well, yeah, but
only ever reveals your God.
Because you're being emotional. You're not
I'm not being emotional.
Yeah, you
Sorry.
are.
Maybe I sound emotional.
In the sense that you believe what you want, not what the evidence says. That's what I mean. You're being emotional because you believe what you want to be true.
I'm not the first person who says that the transcendental argument for God does not necessarily mean the Christian God. I did not
Well,
make that
whoever
up.
says that is wrong, and they don't know what they're talking about. So I don't know what.
This is why I have to bring up Kant and Immanuel Kant or Bertrand Russell. I don't want to do that. Like this is where it's like not useful.
Well, we would reject Kant because Kant
I know.
doesn't answer any of Hume's problems. You need revelation to answer Hume.
How do you answer Hume of like is our morals good because God says they're good, or does God make them good because they're good?
That's not Hume. That's like the Euthyphro dilemma.
Oh, it is Euthyphro. You're right. I'm sorry. What's your answer to that? I bet I know what it is, but I'm just curious.
It's a false dichotomy because the good is the will of God, and it's not arbitrary because it's based on His nature.
And it doesn't exist outside of Him. If they are
exist outside of Him.
You're right. I knew what you were gonna say. It's fine. It doesn't matter. I was just curious. Hey, I'm gonna let you go. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I know you're having fun. I just kind of wanted to do my own little choose your own adventure to see where we'd end up. Ultimately, if it comes back to tag, it's just not useful. It's not a useful argument. I'm glad you can hang your hat on it. That's great. But it's just not for me.
All right. Well, I wish you well, man. Good luck.
Have a good one.
Tag is a transcendental argument for God. It's how we objectively prove Christianity. Welcome, Matt.
So you said a couple things I thought were really interesting. You said you don't understand secular philosophy. You said
I don't like it. It doesn't go anywhere. So I'm not really interested in it.
Made the argument, I'm not even really good at philosophy. So how do you find yourself an authority debate people when you don't even understand the counterpoint?
I'm pretty knowledgeable when it comes to specifically the transcendental argument for God. Not really knowledgeable about philosophy in general.
It's kind of like where you're coming from is like if you grew up and all you saw were rooms with blue walls, and then someone tries to come tell you that rooms have different colored walls, and all you can do is argue about the blue walls because that's all you've seen. And that's what you're doing.
No. I'm being open about my bias. I'm saying, look, I'm biased. I believe in Christianity. This is my bias. What's your bias? And then let's compare our bias and see whose bias can explain what we experience. And only Christians can explain what we experience. So the Christian bias is necessary.
You can't bring a rational argument when you can't present a counterpoint because you don't understand what the other side is saying.
There is no counterpoint. What's the counterpoint to tag?
That's why you get frustrated with people because you're explaining something in a manner where it doesn't take into account their point of view, and so they're not going to.
I ask for their point of view. The atheist, my opponents never want to tell me their point of view because their point of view, they know if they tell it, I can just eviscerate it with like Hume's arguments. So any non-Christian position, I can demolish the shit out of that, right? So they never even want to tell me their position.
I don't understand what you're trying to demolish. So how can you demolish it if you don't understand it? It'd be like going to war.
David Hume's arguments to show that you couldn't know anything if you deny revelation.
That's such a stupid argument because it's circular. And you get so mad.
You're not even trying. Can you at least put effort into your this is like so weak. What is this? There's nothing circular that I said. You're just throwing words out. You don't even know what you're talking about. You're goofy, bro.
That most people say.
Exactly.
Because you're just repeating things you hear. You don't understand the counter argument.
What's the counter argument?
How are you debating?
You're really low, by the way. It's hard to hear you.
I'm trying to understand why you think you're an authority to debate something when you don't understand the counterpoint.
There is
you're probably the last person that should be doing this.
There is no counterpoint.
There's a counterpoint in any debate. But because you
No.
don't understand, the other side, you have no perception that there is a counterpoint. You're living in this unchallenged. You're living in an unchallenged perception of things.
Okay,
you have to challenge your perception in order to have a debate, and you don't.
You're here.
Which is why you get frustrated when you say something and people don't understand or they don't follow because you don't know how to explain to somebody who doesn't come from the same place.
So challenge me. I'm here. You're here.
Well,
how do you challenge Tag? What do you got? What's the counterpoint?
I'm just here to just point out the fact that I think you're like one of the worst people to debate this because you don't have an understanding outside of your own worldview.
So it doesn't sound like
that's all I'm up here for right now.
You don't have anything of substance to say. You're just speaking like vague generalities.
No, I'm critiquing you as a debater, and I think it's pretty funny that you think you're an authority.
There's no specific. What's the specific critique? What, like you talk about a counterpoint? Well, what the hell?
When you get up and you say you don't understand secular philosophy, you're not into science, and then you even say I'm not even good at philosophy. That was a direct quote. Then why are you up here debating things that you don't understand?
Well, I understand the transcendental argument for God. So
I mean, you can repeat it.
I'm making.
You can repeat it. I don't think you can fully understand something unless you understand the counter side of it.
Okay, well, what's the counter side? Please tell me. What's the counter?
The scientific method.
The scientific method. Okay, does the scientific method prove the scientific method is true?
If in terms of our human understanding, it's repeatable and it's something that we can carry out to verify things. Absolutely.
You're saying the scientific method proves isn't that circular?
No.
Okay, so the scientific method proves the scientific method, and that's not circular.
Well, you don't even understand the scientific method, so you're not really an authority to argue about it.
Could you tell us what are the steps?
I'm here saying that you don't understand the full concept of what you're trying to debate because you can't come up with the counterpoint. That's what I'm here to say.
What's the scientific method?
You can't tell me what makes you an authority to have the debate when you can't talk about the other side.
What's the scientific method?
Now you're throwing a red herring in here, as you like to say. You love that term.
What's the scientific method?
All right, have a good day, bud. You're missing the point.
Observation, right? Hypothesis, test, collect data. What's the last one? It's like review the data. I can't remember a good name. The last one is something about you review the data and so that's the scientific method. He doesn't even know what the scientific method is, and he's trying to lecture me about the scientific method. So typical atheist. Wish you well. Good luck in the world with your atheist fantasy. No evidence of God beyond delusions. Well, what about the transcendental evidence of God? How do you escape the matrix without the red pill of the Bible? Mars, if you leave TikTok, you will skyrocket the average IQ here. Well, the IQ test is actually racist, so I don't think we should invoke IQ tests when they're used to justify the oppression of vulnerable minorities. We should abandon the patriarchy and the racism of IQ tests. Welcome.
What's up, big dog?
Yeah.
So, and I just want.
Welcome.
What's up, big dog?
Yeah.
So, and I just want other so-called atheists because I find it funny when they're pressed, they just bounce. And I don't believe in atheism. There's no such thing as an atheist, by the way. Other so-called atheists because I find it funny when they're pressed, they just bounce. And I don't believe in atheism. There's no such thing as an atheist, by the way. Regardless, can you make a distinction between as an atheist, by the way? Regardless, can you make a distinction between fallacious circular reasoning and a self-attesting starting point of knowledge, such as a knowledge has to be ultimately self-attesting? Because I think people conflate vicious circular reasoning or fallacious circular reasoning with a self-authenticating reality, such I would hold to as God. So I'm gonna hop off here. You know who I am. I just tell you to be nice and stop cussing. So love you, bro.
I try, man. Hey, you know,
I love you, bro. It's all good. But I
the
think that
flesh is
distinction
weak.
is helpful.
Yeah, so like the difference is so I think the difference is so there's arguments and then there's explanations. And so there's a difference between arguments and explanations. So where the circularity in tag, the circularity is not in the argument, it's in the explanation. So circularity is only an issue when we're talking about arguments like question begging circularity. And tag doesn't have question begging circularity. The circularity in tag is like you mentioned that, yeah, we have a self-authenticating starting point, or tag argues for the worldview. The worldview includes a verification principle. So when you ask, how do you verify your verification principle? Well, there's going to be some like level of circularity in there because we use the verification principle is verified by the fact that it's what we use to determine what's true. That's sort of like the verification of the verification principle. It's like kind of circular, but there's like, how do you avoid this? Like anyone's going to have a verification principle. And if I just go, well, how do you verify your verification principle? You're going to give a circular response. And that's going to be with like anyone, any system. So like that criticism of like, oh, it's circular reasoning. It's not, because every system of truth needs a self-authenticating starting point. So at any worldview, there's going to be some level of circularity. Like we use words to prove that words have meaning, circular. We use math to prove math, circular. We use logic to prove logic, circular. On a foundational level, circularity is somewhat unavoidable. But the difference is between, is it an explanation or an argument? Arguments can't be circular. Explanations could have circularity.
Yeah, and so I do want to say that when you asked him, how do you know science is true? Do you use science to prove science? You're basically demonstrated that a self-authenticating starting point is unavoidable because we're creatures. Period. In the story. All right, bro.
Exactly. Yep, you got it. Thanks for coming, man. God bless. That guy, Theology Matters. He streams on TikTok, so if anyone wants to follow him. Oh, my good friend Mandy. Welcome, Mandy.
What's up, man? How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. I haven't seen you in a while. I just wanted to check in and see if you found a justification for the first premise of your argument yet.
Sure. Unless ultimate reality reveals itself to us, we wouldn't know reality. And if we don't know reality, we can't say like a proposition corresponds to reality. And if no propositions correspond to reality, then that would implode our metaphysics, so we couldn't say anything's true.
So in other words, if intelligibility exists, God exists?
In other words, have you seen The Matrix?
Yeah.
So Neo, before he meets Morpheus, he thinks the Matrix is real, right? His whole life is a lie, because the whole time he thought like there was an apple on the table, but there wasn't an apple on the table. It was just a code, a computer code, right? So he needs this movie. That's a real philosophy. That's a real problem in philosophy. The movie wasn't just making that up. It's a philosophical movie. So in order to get to the real world, to take the red pill, the Bible is the red pill, right? So I'm offering you a choice, Mandy. You have a blue pill. You take the blue pill. You wake up tomorrow. You won't remember any of this, and you'll be in your atheist fantasy. You take the red pill. You accept the Bible, and I'll show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
So are you claiming that you can't have intelligibility without God?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, you cannot have intelligibility without God and his revelation.
Great. Can you justify that claim?
Yes. Remember what I was saying about the Matrix?
Yeah.
The Matrix isn't intelligible because Neo doesn't understand that he's in a simulation. He thinks he's in a real world. So the Matrix world is unintelligible to Neon until he takes the red pill. So the Bible is the red pill in this analogy.
So you're just repeating the claim, it sounds like.
No, Does Neon is the world intelligible for Neo? Not Neo. Neo. Does Neo understand the world?
No, not in the movie.
Right. But when he takes the red pill, now the world is intelligible to him.
Right, and the red pill in this analogy is God, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So can you justify the claim that you can't have intelligibility without God, without repeating the claim?
Okay. Yeah. So if there's our logic and our observations of the world, we don't have revelation, right? And so if all you have to go by to know the world is your logic and your observations, I can just make arguments from David Hume to show that that's not enough to know the world. That if that's all we have, we could not know the world. That God's revelation is the only way we can know the world, because unless ultimate reality reveals itself, we can't know what reality is.
Right. So that's a really long way of just saying that you can't have intelligibility without God. I'm not asking you to repeat the claim in different words. I'm asking you to support the claim.
That is the support of the claim.
What's the justification that you can't have intelligibility without God?
God's revelation and the impossibility to deny it.
Okay, that's just repeating the claim.
No, it's not.
Okay, so it sounds to me like I haven't talked to you in a while, and it sounds to me like you haven't found a justification yet. So maybe I should just check in a couple more weeks.
You're just repeating the question instead of understanding the claim.
No, you are repeating the claim without justifying it.
You're repeating your question, and you're not understanding what I'm presenting to you. So I present.
When I ask you, you presenting it in just different words, but you're not actually changing the presentation.
Well, I've presented a justification, but then you just repeat this like question without addressing the presentation. So what you're doing is emotional. You're ignoring evidence to believe what you want to be true. So you're being emotional.
This is what they do. This is what they do.
This is what they do.
I'm not experiencing any emotional response to this. I'm hoping to get some. I'm hoping to get justification.
Why don't you believe with the evidence that I presented?
I'd like to believe in God if he exists, but you haven't provided any justification beyond your initial claim.
That's just a repeating yourself. Okay, so I did provide a justification.
It's because you have not provided a justification.
I asked you to like never come here, so now you're harassing me.
I'm not harassing you. You invited me, or you allowed me up.
Mandy, I never want to talk to you or interact with you. Do you understand?
Okay, so when I request to come up, are you able to accept or deny me?
Yes. But I just want you to know.
So did you accept or deny? Did you accept or deny?
I just want you to know that this is harassment.
Did you accept or deny me coming up?
I accepted you, but I'm asking you.
So that is equivalent to an invitation. You could have simply denied, you could block me, you could do any of these things. Now, you seem to be getting emotional just based on your facial expressions. It does seem like you're experiencing some emotion. So I'd ask you to put the emotions aside and just provide me a justification for the first claim of your, for the first premise of your argument.
Please stop trying to contact me or come on my live, please. Because you're harassing.
I will not. I will not. But you're welcome to not accept my requests.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I wish you well.
Have a good day, man. Have a good day. Have a good day. I hope you're able to.
That's unfortunate. Welcome.
Hey, what's up, man? Okay, so I want you to explain your worldview.
Explain it.
Okay,
yeah.
No, let me say this. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it's just the story in the Bible, right? You know, like God created the world and He created us to have a loving relationship, and so that's the worldview. I mean, just the story in the Bible. Don't you know the Bible?
Okay, now hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Now you say that without God, intelligence is not possible.
We couldn't understand the world or our experience or other minds. You couldn't understand.
So intelligence is the ability. Intelligence is the ability to gather data, knowledge, information about the world and make sense of it. Correct?
Sure, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, sure. Yeah, to understand the world.
Okay, so you're saying that we wouldn't be able. So like when we look and observe the world, we look at the sun, right? We call it the sun. We look at all these things and we give it a name. and we see the patterns and all these things.
Yep.
And we do tests and things like that to see what it can do, to see how we can use it, what we can make, what we can invent, right? You're saying a God is necessary for that?
Yes. There wouldn't be like pattern.
So
Without God, there's no
there wouldn't
pattern.
be patterns?
Yeah, there's no patterns in the world without God.
Okay, and what about the chaos?
The chaos? What about the chaos?
So do you agree that there's chaos and order in our reality?
Yeah. Yes.
So like would you say that in a not God world where everything was like sort of random, that order, some level of order is impossible?
Yeah.
So you said randomness can't produce any order or patterns at all?
Yeah. So the fact that there's patterns, okay, like think about this. Anything that exists could potentially have an infinite amount of properties. Potentially. And so if we take two things that exist and they can have infinite amount of properties, that's like rolling two dice to have a pattern between those things. You'd have to roll two dice with infinite amount of numbers, and the dice land on the same number. Do you think that's going to ever happen if you have an infinite sided die, two infinite sided die, that you can roll them and then you're going to get the same number? That'll never happen, right?
Oh
So
no,
there has to be.
not repeatedly. No, you'll get it a couple of times, but not.
You would like never get it.
I mean, if you have
infinite
like
number
if you
set?
roll a couple of times, but not.
You would like never get it.
I mean, if you have
infinite
like
number
if you
set?
roll.
They're never going to land on the same number. Like never. So they're never going to land on the same number. Like never. So
Okay, wait, hang on. No, wait. So you're saying, okay, if you have two dice, right?
Never. So
Okay, wait, hang on. No, wait. You're saying that if you have an infinite amount of chances to roll them, they will never land on the same side?
Two dice, infinite numbers, and they wouldn't land on the same number ever.
Oh, you're saying infinite numbers, not like the regular dice would. Okay.
Yes. And that's what's going on to say that there's patterns accidentally. Because anything that exists could have presumably an infinite amount of properties. And so for two things that exist to share the same property when there's an infinite amount, that'd be like rolling two dice with infinite numbers and they land on the same number. Never's going to happen.
Okay, now let me ask you this. So when you say that you think God is the ultimate reality,
Yeah.
are you saying that you think that our reality, this universe, is made of like God's mind, of God's thought?
I'm saying that like God was the first thing to ever exist. He's the most fundamental thing that exists, and then everything comes.
And God is like a being of pure mind and consciousness, some realm of pure.
I mean, it's kind of, we only know what God reveals about himself to us. So
Okay.
I don't know. Like,
Okay. What has this being revealed?
Just like what the Bible says, that he's like omniscient, omnipotent, omnibenevolent, omnipresent. Thank you, Kels.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay. So now, when it comes to why don't we observe creation in our current time and day? Why don't we observe anything being created right now?
Because creation happened in the past.
But don't you think that if creation was happening now, that would prove that things can be created?
Wait, what was that?
If things were being created right now, like if we were able to look around us, look into the universe or whatever, and observe things being created, wouldn't that prove, without a shadow of a doubt, that things can be created?
No, observation isn't enough to prove anything.
What? So I'm sorry. If we okay, like if me and you go outside and look at the sun, you telling me that's not enough proof to show that the sun exists?
Yeah, it just means we perceive. Just because we perceive something to exist doesn't mean it actually exists. That's a leap. It doesn't follow that you perceive something, and therefore the thing you perceive is actual.
Okay, now let me ask you this: Does this God that you want does this God that you believe in want people to believe in Him?
Yes.
So why does he not make it as? Why does he not make his make it as? Why does he not make it more more perceivable?
He can't. It's maxed out. God couldn't be more obvious.
God can't be more obvious than what He is right now.
Correct. It's literally maxed out on evidence. There couldn't be more evidence of God. It's impossible.
But okay, so you're saying God couldn't appear to me in my dream if He wanted to?
Sure, He could, but you're not going to believe it. Even if God appeared to you in reality, let's say Jesus just poofed into your room and started talking to you, you're not going to believe that. You're just going to think you're hallucinating. Yeah.
Okay, now what if my whole family experienced it? What if the whole world experienced it?
Well, I mean, there already is a whole world that experiences it, and you still don't believe it.
I mean, everybody. Like if everybody came out, people who I don't know, right? See, the problem that we have now is that some people are claiming this, right? Like it's the same thing with people who claim that they see UFOs. I've never seen a UFO, right? So it's like it's like how I look at that is like, okay, well, you have your experience and you have to live with your own experience. But if you said this being exists, why don't I not have the same experience also as everybody else? Why only do some people have this experience?
You do experience God. You just suppress the truth and unrighteousness.
So I experience God, but okay, now I live my day-to-day life. I go to work, play video games, and all that. I live in this so-called physical material world. I'm pretty sure God is not the physical material world according to your worldview.
Yeah.
So how am I experiencing God?
His invisible qualities are like obvious. So like you experienced God in like the order you see, the patterns in the world, math, logic, beauty. Those things are only explained by God.
So
the physical order.
So you're saying my ability. So what you're saying is my ability to, I guess, find beauty in certain things, or to make sense out of the world in my own way, or make sense out of what I've experienced in my life, is because of God.
You can't do it on your own. Yeah, you need God. If you were on your own, you wouldn't be able to understand. We wouldn't even be able to talk. It's only because we live in God's world that we can like have this conversation.
But isn't it not us who makes language? Did it not take language a certain amount of time to develop? Like language didn't just develop.
But we don't make
things. So
we don't make the things we don't make the thing the language refers to, unless it's I guess like a car or something. But like I didn't make a tree, right? We don't make trees. Trees exist, and then we make a word to describe the thing that exists.
Correct.
So you have to explain, these things exist. How can it be that these things exist? And only God explains that. Like it doesn't. Human minds can't explain anything. We're limited as humans.
No. We
like it doesn't. Human minds can't explain anything. We're limited as humans.
No. We are there because of God, but nevertheless, we go and we make up the words to describe certain things. We make up and down, or less we go and we make up the words to describe certain things. We make up and down, or we make up all these words to describe the things that we see, regardless of how. And as far as I can tell, whatever knowledge we have been able to accumulate has come from our ability to our desire to want to investigate. We're not born knowing what everything is. We're not born with what to call certain things. We have to come up with words to call this that, and we're going to call this that. We have to. It doesn't seem like we have the universe and the world does not owe us understanding. That's why we have to go out there and do all these experiments and do all this investigation, and it fails a lot of the times. It fails a lot, but eventually we get through. There was a certain time where we thought we couldn't do certain things, but as we further investigated,
you're just proving God exists, though. Because the fact that we can learn and successfully know things about the world, that just proves God exists. Because if it were otherwise, we
know everything about the world. Why do we even have to investigate in the first place? Why are we not born with a knowledge of the world?
Because we're finite. We're creaturely and we're finite, so we're very limited as humans. That's why we need God. We need a savior. We're screwed without a savior. You couldn't even do science or philosophy or argue or do anything. You need God to literally do everything you do in your life. You can't deny God. It's not possible.
So what I'm trying to say is, why do we even have to learn or investigate anything? Why are we not just born with the knowledge?
You are born with certain, God designed your mind and the way it thinks. So you're born thinking in terms of cause and effect. So you're born believing in causality. Because God designed your mind to think in terms of causality.
So if you say God is responsible for all this, would you say that God is responsible for the cancer, the mental and personality disorders? Is God directly responsible for that too?
No, that's a result of us rebelling against God. If we didn't rebel against God, there would be none of that stuff.
So those things, so things like boils, right? For example, skin cancer, right? You walk outside, if you live in a certain area, you might get skin cancer because you don't have enough melanin in your skin, right? When I look at a person who gets skin cancer, right? Because they might not have enough pigmentation. It's not because the sun doesn't give them skin cancer because they're a sinner. It gives them skin cancer because they're not in a proper environment. Their body is not suited for the environment that they're trying to inhabit. It's nothing, So when I look at these things, it doesn't seem like there's anything personal. It just seems like life is just not perfect. And
because you need the Bible.
It doesn't seem like,
because the Bible tells us that
it's like.
But before we ate the fruit from the tree, there was no death, there was no suffering, there was no skin cancer. All these bad things that we experience are a result of the fall. Before that, everything was perfect. So,
okay, now when you say perfect, when you say perfect, what do you mean by that? Are you saying that life was perfect for life? I mean, because what I recognize is that what may be good for somebody else may not be good for somebody else, right? What may be good for us may not necessarily be good for a lion or a penguin, right? Penguins have to live in the Antarctic. That's the best suitable environment for them, but that's not the best suitable environment for us. So it seems like when I look around, everything has its own needs and wants. And, what may be good for somebody else may not be good for something else. So it's like, when you're saying the world was perfect, I guess you're saying that all life, I guess it was just perfect for life, I guess.
I'm saying as humans, we never like got hungry. We never grew old. We never got sick, and like anything we could dream or imagine was like instantly realized the second you thought of it. But then Eve, from her position, she's like, well, this just isn't good enough. Because you know how women are. Like, you give women Eve, she wasn't satisfied with this like perfect world. She wanted more, and then she convinced Adam, and Adam was a fool. He just listened to Eve, and so that's why there's bad things in the world.
So, is God infinite?
Yeah.
And nothing exists outside of God, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so if God is infinite and nothing exists outside of God, would that not mean that what you call creation is within God? Like within God's mind?
I don't know what you're saying. I'm saying like God is the ground of being, so everything that exists derives and depends on God. Nothing exists with independence from God. That's what I thought you were talking about.
But what we call reality would have to exist within God, because if God is infinite, there is no such thing as outside of God.
We believe there's a creator-creature distinction. So the creation is distinct from the creator.
But that means that, but that still wouldn't necessarily mean that reality couldn't exist within God.
Reality is not within God. I mean, I don't know how you're using these terms. I mean, in a sense, God's like image.
Okay, no, hang on. Before the universe, before the heavens, the angels, and all that other stuff, there was only God, right?
Yeah.
Now, and before that, there was only God. God was reality itself. God was existence itself. There was no such thing as outside of God. God was like, if you and me could probably go back to when before God created anything, God would like be this. God would like be a realm. God would like be His own universe, literally, infinitely. So, if before creation only God was, and nothing was outside of God, God was all that there was. That means that God can only create within itself, because there's nothing outside of God. God was all there was.
Well,
So
I mean,
to say that God created something outside of Himself.
but we only know what God. You couldn't know about God unless God reveals it to you. So I don't know how can you talk about God apart from revelation? You're just making it up.
I mean, it's pretty. It's just common sense. If before
No,
all that was
God
created,
is no.
only
It's not.
God was, and
We only know about
so
God
like
what
if
God
before the
reveals.
universe, and
You can't.
but it's like it doesn't. All right, so are you saying that you can't make conclusions about God? So like I'm pretty sure you can make conclusions about God, and God doesn't have to reveal every single little thing to you, right? Like
No,
ask you this: does
our
God?
logic.
Hang on, wait. Does God lie?
No,
Now,
but
does Bi-
why?
does the does God in the Bible ever tell you that He doesn't lie?
Yes,
He says in the Bible that I don't lie.
yes,
Does He says in the Bible that I don't lie?
yes,
Does He say that He's fair?
yes. Impartial. Yeah. God,
Does He say that He's fair?
yes. Impartial. Yeah. God's the best. Why don't you want to have a relationship? God's the best. Why don't you want to have a relationship with God? He loves you and he just wants the best for you. But why do you give him the double middle finger?
I mean, for me, it's like right now, right? I'm just sitting down in my room, right? Looking at Netflix. You know, I go outside and look at the sky, look at the sun, look at the plants and the trees, look at everybody driving in their cars, going to work, wherever they want to go, right? That's all I see and observe and perceive. It's like when people say you need to have a relationship with God, it's like I don't know how to take that. How am I going to have a relationship with something I can't talk to? I can't. Like, there's no telepathy or anything. I can't telepathically communicate to this being. I can't go to no alternate dimension and go talk to this being. It doesn't appear to me. It appeared to me in my dreams or visions. So it's like, you know, it's like I really don't know what to say to people. It's like I don't understand how you're having a relationship with something like that, but I don't know. I may define a relationship as different from what I define a relationship.
We can talk to God and God listens, and sometimes God responds and sometimes he doesn't.
So you can talk to God?
Yeah, he listens to us. We pray to God and he listens to us. And he helps us. Like,
can you hear him talking back? Does he talk back?
No. I mean, I guess it's possible. But I personally haven't heard like a voice of God or something in my head. But I have a relationship with Jesus. I study Jesus. I learn about him. And then I pray to him. And he exists and he's real. And I've seen the effects of Jesus' love in my life.
So why doesn't God talk to you in an audible voice? I mean, like, it's not. I mean, I understand that, like, God, like, from what I understand, it seems like God wants to make his existence not too evident.
Yeah, if
because
we
I guess it's a faith. It's a faith thing.
It's not a faith,
right? But I mean, like,
it's a thing of if we knew everything about God, we couldn't be humble. So God purposely makes himself hidden while revealing himself, which is kind of a contradiction. But he does this so that if we don't know everything about him, we can be humble when we approach God.
Whoa! But if more humble, right?
No.
I mean, because not knowing
arrogance. Yeah, I mean,
what did you say? A lack of knowledge of God.
If we knew everything about God, we couldn't be humble. When we approach God, we would know everything about him, so that it'd be a struggle to be humble. We'd be like arrogant, like a atheist. You notice how like atheists are like super arrogant and they think they're God? It'd be like that.
Okay. Hang on, wait. Let me say, hang on. Let's say you and me lived in a kingdom, right? And we knew everything about the king, right? Now, we of course we would still be humble because we are aware of the king's power and authority over the military, over the forces and powers of the government. Us knowing everything about the king will in fact only increase our humility and understanding of his power, knowledge, and etc. and authority. So I don't understand how us, like, if we're talking about a being who can just snap universes into existence, I don't understand how we can be arrogant to something like that.
I mean, if you knew everything about God, you'd basically be freaking God yourself. So you would be a megalomaniac. You'd be arrogant. You'd think you were God.
Actually, no. If we knew everything about God, we still wouldn't have none of God's power. Like just because we know everything about God doesn't mean that we will have the ability to snap universes or planets or anything into existence. We'll still just have the capacity, the capabilities of human beings.
No, you would have
we wouldn't be able to come anywhere close to.
You'd be omniscient. You'd have literally a divine attribute.
Okay, what about nearly? What about, like, not everything about God, but almost everything, like 80% or 90% of God?
I don't know, man. Like, we can only know what God reveals to us, right? And he reveals himself as the hidden God. And the way I make sense of that, it makes sense to me because if we knew everything about God, we wouldn't be humble. And this doesn't make sense to you. I don't know. I guess you're just like a very unique person or something. I don't know. Like, it seems obvious to me.
I mean, I mean, because like the reason why I say that is because like just because like if I know everything about God, right, I still wouldn't. I would know all the more of God's power, and I would be aware of how I would have no
I already
chance
know
of
this. No, you'd have
like.
more awe if you knew everything about God. You wouldn't have that awe. We have this awe, respect, fear, and humility towards God because we don't know everything about him.
Okay, but hang on. But wouldn't this increase in knowledge, in this intelligence, right? Like, why would I ever show arrogance to a being
You're
that can snap
arrogant
his
right
fingers and
now.
erase me from existence?
Dude, you're
It's not.
arrogant as hell. What are you talking about?
Well,
You're denying God.
well,
That's extremely arrogant.
well.
So you gotta humble yourself to
I
accept
see that, like,
God.
what
You
you're
have
saying
to
to me
humble
is
yourself. You know what Bruce Lee said? Bruce Lee said, if you want to learn, you gotta empty your cup. Because if your cup is full, Bruce Lee said, if you want to learn, you gotta empty your cup. Because if your cup is full, atheists that come up here, they have full cups. They think they fucking know everything. They think they know everything, so they're not humble. You have to be. They think they fucking know everything. They think they know everything, so they're not humble. You have to be. You can't know everything and be humble. It's the opposite. You don't get this? Like, this isn't rocket surgery, dude. To learn
well.
about God, to know God, you have to
If I knew,
humble
I mean, no,
yourself.
but hang on. But no, wait. If I knew everything about God, God would have to make himself like obvious. Like
It
there wouldn't be
does.
like
It is obvious.
no sort of him revealing himself partially.
All right, man. Well, okay.
I mean, when
You're
I look
just
at
too
the sun,
unique
the
for me,
sky,
man.
and all of that, I see it.
Yeah. I'm just gonna have to move
Like
on.
when I look at the sun and the sky and all of that, I see it for what it is. But I don't see like there's like I don't think like there's some sort of a mind or force behind it. I see it for what it is, and that's what I see it as. Right now, when you tell me to have a relationship with God, I just don't I don't understand that. Like if God can't communicate, it's not going to communicate with me. I don't even understand and it's like then it comes up with like the prayers, right? You can pray for all kind of things, but that don't mean that your prayers are going to be answered. Like
So,
what's the point in praying if God is going to do what He wants to do anyway?
well, sometimes you
I mean,
could pray.
you can't change God's mind.
Well, what if you pray for something, but what you're asking for isn't the best for you? And because God wants the best for you, He doesn't. We don't always know what's best for us, right? You don't always know what's the best thing for you, right? Sometimes you think something's the best. I was wrong. I don't want this. Okay? So we as humans, finite, we don't necessarily know what we really want or need or what's best for us. And God knows best. And so if you ask God for something that maybe it's not a good thing for you, He's not going to do that. He's going to give you what's best for you and what you need. So
Okay, now
He'll
hang on.
listen to us,
If you say that we
but
don't,
He's not always going to do what we say because He's God.
okay, now but like here's the thing: if you say that we don't know what is best for us and God knows what's best for us, then there's no point in praying because God knows what's best for us and we don't.
The
So
point
God is
of
going to
praying
do
is that's
what's
how we
best
have
for us regardless of whether we.
it's how we have a
I
relationship
mean,
with other people. Like children, a large part of a child's relationship with their parent is they're always asking their parents for things. And that's what we're like, God's children. So we have a relationship with God.
like
We ask Him for things. He doesn't necessarily give us what we ask for. A parent doesn't necessarily give a child what they ask for. but God and the parent will listen to us, and they do what's best for the child. It's the same thing with God.
But it seems like when you pray, it seems like that's like a form of doubt. Like if God is all knowing, past, present, and future, there's no point in me praying because God knows God's going to do what I
Future in
would want to
Christianity,
ask and everything.
the future's not set in stone in
I'm
Christianity.
just saying.
We have free will.
I'm just
Your
saying. I
choices
don't.
affect the future, so it does matter. And
So what?
atheism, it wouldn't matter. Nothing would matter. Anyways, I don't know. I think we should like give someone else a chance to talk. We've been talking for a long time. But I don't know. I think you just like. I think you don't want Jesus to be true. It's obvious Jesus is true, but you just don't want it to be true, and I think that's the issue. Is you have
No. It's like I can pray, right? But it's like God, like from what people tell me, God never talks to them in an audible voice, right? It's like there's no reciprocation,
to us through the
and it's like
prophets. God speaks through the prophets. We have Jesus. We have the mind of Jesus is God. So God literally incarnated as a person and talked to us, dude.
I can't. He talked to the people. No. Jesus talked to the people of that day. Jesus is not here to talk to me right now.
We have the Gospels, though, so we know it. We have the mind of Christ.
That's not that's the experiences of the prophets. Jesus made his certain statements in there, but the whole book is not. It's the prophets put their stuff in there.
You're just too unique.
But I want to know why I can't talk directly to Jesus. Like, why can't I not have a personal relationship with this being?
You can.
Like, why can't we? Why can't we not go into a dimension and we talk about the world? He gives me an understanding of science and knowledge and all this other stuff. It's like why can't we do that? Why can't I ask him what's his favorite color, or why did he choose to be a carpenter? Why what was it about carpeting that made you so interested about that, Jesus? Why did you like that?
And if science is real, why can't science create a black hole wormhole portal in front of me right now?
No, I'm talking about Jesus.
Yeah, I'm talking about scientists make all these claims, but I don't see like a wormhole that's appearing in front of me that'll allow me to teleport to Europe. Like, why isn't science doing that? What's wrong with science?
Well, we're not advanced in our technology, maybe in 1,000 years or so, but we're talking about an omnipotent being here, right? So, and it's like I want to know, why can't I go talk with Jesus and we just have this friend relationship? Ask him, what's your favorite color? Hey, what you think about Mary? Why did you choose to be a carpenter? Was that because that was the best option you had, or because it was something special about carpenting? You know what, Ashton? I chose to be a carpenter because of this and this and this. When I was a teenager,
he could have been a king, but God's humble. So that's what I'm saying. You just don't get it, man. I don't know. I think I should just move on. I think you're just.
I want to ask Jesus, like, how was it growing up as a teenager? Like, what did you like? What kind of games did you play? I can't ask. How can I have a personal relationship with something that I can't ask these questions? I can't get to know his life, his thoughts.
I guess you're just gonna have to go to the hot place in the afterlife. So that sucks. I'm gonna move on.
It doesn't make any sense. You said a personal relationship. It's like me trying to have a relationship with a friend. It's like me trying to have a relationship with a friend that I can't communicate with.
Okay, well, you're very stubborn like Pharaoh. So I'm going to move on, okay? Thank you for coming, and I wish you well.
I mean, this is serious. Why can't I talk?
Yeah, why can't I just never listen to anything you say, and you're trying to move on, but I just keep asking the same question, and I'm so clueless, and you can tell by my questions I'm low information. So why? Why am I so low information? Oh my God. I can't even believe people like that exist. Like, how does that guy exist? How does he function? Like, I don't understand how that person functions in life. I really don't. I guess it's a miracle. Holy smokes. Welcome, Sela. Oh, Sela.
Hey, how are you doing today, Precept?
I'm doing good. I finally got unbanned.
Oh, that's why you were gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
I'm not sure why I got banned. I think it's because I called someone. I used the word H-A-T-E. I called someone a god, H-A-T-E-R.
Oh.
I guess calling someone an H-A-T-E-R is H-A-T-E speech. And I have to spell out words because I'm an adult.
But yeah, that guy, it's similar to say, oh, if God's so real, why doesn't he just come right here in front of me? So just like you know how he revealed himself to one of the followers.
I couldn't ask Jesus, like, what's your favorite color, Jesus? And then he can't tell me his favorite color. So I guess I'm not going to be a Christian.
And let's be honest, if he really wanted to hear from God, he'd be reading the Gospels right now.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be on a TikTok live questioning it. Like, we pray to God to thank God, to glorify God, and to align our will with God's. It doesn't mean, like, if we ask for something, we're going to get it. But we pray to align our will with God's. I don't know why he's... It almost seems like he's treating God like a genie.
Yes, we pray to God. That's part of like how we have a relationship with God. Like we communicate. Right. Yeah, I don't know. That guy was just... I can't really understand what that guy was thinking. Like,
I recognize his voice. He's definitely been up here before.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's spoken with Darth for a while.
Look at this. Now they're like, define relationship. I don't define words. I can't, like, honestly, I can't. I like know what words mean, and if you ask me to define them, I can't unless I like can have looked it up recently and can remember off the top of my head. I just can't. I don't know. My brain doesn't work like that. Satan's child is begging. He's quite. Welcome.
Hello.
Welcome, adversary.
Hey.
Hey.
What's going on, man?
Just talking about.
So I've listened to you for a little bit, and I just want to establish a few ground rules before we start. So can we establish that atheism is the default position? You were born an atheist, and there's no such thing as a Christian baby. Is that correct?
You would need an argument as to why it's the default position. Do you have
because the lack of belief is not a religion. You don't learn about the religion until you get older, and then you were born into that religion. If you were born into Hinduism or you were born into Buddhism, you'd be those things right now, but you were born into Christianity, so you're a Christian. Now, I am a doctor. I work in a hospital. You know what I do? I work with cancer patients, with children. You know how many unanswered prayers I hear a year? Probably about 10 to 15,000. Children sitting there crying, throwing up. Me have to hold their hair. And you know who does that? You're God. And you know why? Because you hold him to the standards and the morality of a 5-year-old with superpowers. You give him all the power and none of the responsibility. And that is sad. It's sad that you are that weak, that you need an authoritarian dictator in the sky to make you a good person. That's pathetic. You can just admit that you're weak-minded. Atheism is the default position. You are not, there is no such thing as a Christian baby, no matter how fucking loud you say it, it does not make it true. I can say that 500 people saw a unicorn. If I write that down, does that make it more true or less true? Because there are no eyewitness accounts. One man wrote down that 500 people saw Jesus. He has no actual eyewitness accounts. He just wrote that down. So if I take that position of if I write down 500 people saw a unicorn, does that make that more or less true?
You're just galloping.
No, I'm not. No, I want to know. So we can go through the Bible bit by bit. Well, let's go to Kings 23:24, where God kills 42 adolescents with a bear attack for calling a prophet baldy. Now, is that good or bad in your eyes?
That's beautiful.
It's beautiful. See? So if you were born and you ran into Thanos, and Thanos said, I'm going to wipe out all of existence, but I won't torture you for an eternity if you bow to me. You're so weak, you would bow to him. That's how gross it is. You are a gross, evil human being, and your God is gross and equally evil.
Oh, yeah, so
Numbers 31, where your God took 32,000 child sex slaves. Moses took 32,000 child sex slaves, and the next words out of the Bible were, Yahweh...
That guy's got emotional damage.
Yeah, I don't think he came up here to ask a question.
I couldn't even say anything. He was just gish galloping. Emotional damage. Run away. You didn't even let me talk. You were filibustering, so I couldn't talk. So you were running away by filibustering. Yeah. Well, when you filibuster, you're the one running away, dipshit. Welcome, Pubble.
How's it going?
Going well. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. A little bit of snow on the ground.
Oh no.
First day of the year.
Yeah. We don't have any snow here yet, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, no, it just came this morning.
So what do you got a comment or a question?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where I'd like to start. So just as background, I used to be a Christian, now I'm an atheist.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't really, I guess I no longer really understand the justification for a belief in God. And I heard you talking earlier with the guest before last that God is a necessity for existence or understanding, and I just kind of like to flesh that out a little bit so I can kind of understand where you're coming from in regards to that.
Sure. So, revelation is like a type of knowledge that comes directly from God.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like justified knowledge, because if something comes from God and God, like, he makes things true, then anything that he says is going to be like a justified. We're justified to believe what God says. And so the other types of ways we could prove something or know something is through like rational, logical. The other types of ways we could prove something or know something is through like rational, logical proof. And so without revelation knowledge, all of our knowledge is going to depend on our. And so without revelation knowledge, all of our knowledge is going to depend on our reason and our observations. And so if you take that knowledge, all of our knowledge is going to depend on our reason and our observations. And so if you take that position that all we have is reason and observations to know anything, I can make arguments, skeptical arguments, to show that it's not enough. That if that were the case, we couldn't know anything. But we live in a world where we know things, so there must be some other explanation. There must be God's revelation to explain that we can know things.
Yeah, so you can make those claims and you can bring into question the validity of the knowledge. But that doesn't mean that that's a rational position to hold.
Sure it does. It's a transcendental proof. So that my position's rational. I have an argument or evidence to support my position. Whereas like when you take the non-God position, that's completely emotional, because there's no rationale that like a non-God world could be true. It literally can't be true. It's self-defeating.
So explain that a little bit further, because like I've heard this argument in like Darth's lives, for example, and I'm having a hard time really understanding why this means there must be God.
So
because you're operating under a lot of presuppositions as to the nature of the universe and its ability to exist with or without a God.
No. So how to explain this? Let's see here. So to say something like is true, like it has to correspond with reality. You with me on there?
Yeah.
Okay. And what the argument is showing is that unless ultimate reality is God and reveals itself, we can't know reality. And if we can't know reality, we can't say anything corresponds to reality, because we don't even know what reality is.
Yes, my question would be, why not?
Because observation and logic doesn't tell us anything about what reality is. It's not good enough. No.
That's how you make it. That's how you make every single conclusion you've ever come to in your life.
Well, I'm a Christian, so I have a foundation that goes beyond. I have a transcendental foundation for my system.
A shaky foundation at best.
No, it's very strong.
Well, like if we were talking about the Bible itself as being the revelation from God, that's shaky at best.
No, it's literally impossible not to be true. So
that's just outright false.
It's not false. I prove it all the time.
There's many aspects of the Bible that have been proven to be untrue.
They can't be. You can't prove anything in the Bible is untrue. It's impossible.
You can.
No.
The Earth isn't 6,000 years old.
Well, the Bible doesn't really make that claim. That's extrapolated from people.
Do you believe that though?
I'm agnostic on the age of the Earth.
Like, do you believe that humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time? Do you even believe in dinosaurs? Because I know that's even...
Yes, I believe humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time.
And what's your justification for even something as such a silly belief as that?
The Bible.
Where in the Bible?
Well, in the Bible, in the beginning, God made man. So there wasn't this, like, millions of years before men were made where dinosaurs were running around, and then God made man.
Except, so then you reject the fossil record as being...
No, I just think they coexisted.
Well, but the fossil record disproves that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Quite. That's like this is not even something that you can argue. We don't find human remains in the same layers that we find dinosaur remains. That's just the way it is.
But you're presupposing uniformitarianism. So
yeah, but that is a very reasonable presupposition. Much more reasonable presupposition than the universe needs God.
It's not.
Okay, explain that to me. What evidence have you seen to show that things like geological activity maybe was on like 100 million times speed back in the early days of the world?
I don't argue science, so I don't argue this stuff.
Back in the early days of the world?
I don't argue science, so I don't argue this stuff. More like philosophy of science. I don't really argue specific scientific claims because I don't know enough about science to make like scientific arguments. Philosophy of science. I don't really argue specific scientific claims because I don't know enough about science to make like scientific arguments. But
the issue with that position though is you're trying to make truth claims about the world that we live in without understanding the world that we live in.
No, you're assuming that science is correct and the Bible's wrong. How do you know that?
Yeah, because that's been demonstrated.
No, but
beyond reasonable doubt.
Science could not demonstrate anything unless the claims of the Bible are true. So you can't use science.
That's just blatantly false. This is where I don't understand the rhetoric that you're coming from.
Okay, so the uniformity of nature has to be true to do science, right?
Sure.
So we can't.
But it's reasonable to assume uniformity based on the observations that we have today.
So it's reasonable.
It's a reasonable assumption.
Oh, so it's rational to have blind faith?
No, it's not blind faith at all. We can make observations of how the world works today, and we can extrapolate that back.
But that's
not blind.
That would be begging the question, so that would be.
We can even test it.
No, you can't.
We can look at things like geologic formations that we have remnants of, and we can see the actual things that are occurring today to form things like that.
We're talking about the uniformity of nature, not geology. I'm not a geologist.
Well, is geology not a part of nature?
I'm about to kick you. You are so annoying. Focus.
No, I'm not meaning to.
Focus.
I truly believe that the position that you're coming from is talking about the uniformity of nature, saying that the universe is like our ability to know anything is dependent on the existence of a God. I think those are absurd claims that don't have any actual reasonable backing.
Okay, so can we do science in a world where every scientific experiment gives a different result and there's no consistency in scientific experiments? Can you do science in that world?
I mean, you can. I don't know. I don't think it would be effective science.
You can't do. Yeah, that's the point. It wouldn't be effective. It wouldn't mean anything. You couldn't do science.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that we've observed the uniformity in our world, which is why we can do science.
Okay, but we have to epistemically justify the uniformity. So now, only God's revelation can epistemically justify that uniformity. And if you don't epistemically justify the uniformity, then science is impossible. So your
so if we can presuppose that God is needed for that, can we not also just presuppose that that is ingrained in the nature of the universe itself?
No, because you can
uniformity is an aspect of our universe that is true, and that's just a part of the universe the way it is, and the story, that's it.
No, you can presuppose anything, but it doesn't do anything for you unless you can connect that presupposition to reality.
Well, if we presuppose that that nature is uniform, then science works, everything's fine.
Sir, you can presuppose anything you want, but it doesn't do anything for you unless the presupposition can connect to reality. So it doesn't do anything for you to do what you're saying. That's nothing.
How does my presupposition not conform to reality?
What's the metaphysical tether? How do you connect it? How do you connect the concept to the state of affairs?
Like, I mean, we can do that through observation.
No, you cannot do that through observation. Why would you lie to me?
Why not?
Because we only observe. Just because you perceive something doesn't mean it's actually there. It doesn't logically follow that because we perceive something that the thing we perceive is actual. It just doesn't follow.
Sure, it does. Yeah, no. If you're observing something with
Pubble, why are you lying to me?
I'm not.
You are.
Explain to me how I'm lying to you.
It does not logically follow because you can perceive something in the world that it's actually the thing you perceive is actually there in the world. That doesn't follow logically.
How?
Because we can perceive things that aren't there.
So if we take reasonable steps, so let's say we're talking in a scientific environment where we're doing a well-constructed, well-thought-out experiment where you have multiple methods of detection and recording, and you have like
matter. None of that.
Why not?
Gets you out of because you're in a dream. You perceive things in a dream, but they're not actually there.
I'm not talking about dreams. I'm not talking about figments of your imagination. I'm talking about concrete things. Let's say if you have a laser detector, you can reasonably assume that when that laser detector goes off, it's detecting a laser.
That's just another perception that doesn't get you to actuality. You never escape.
Yeah, but that detector doesn't dream. It doesn't go off.
Dude, your observation and your logic doesn't get you to the actual. Only God revealing himself can get us to the actual. So there's nothing. So
that's a presupposition that's unjustified.
Okay, then how would
so
you
if I'm talking about like a detector. Like just a light detector. That light detector doesn't dream, doesn't hallucinate.
Stop.
It will only detect it.
Stop.
I'm trying to justify my position.
Stop. You can't. You're wrong.
I am.
Stop.
You can't.
Stop. A detector, whatever the hell you're talking about, that still just deals with our perceptions of the world. Our perceptions of the world never get us to the actual world. There's no way.
So a detector's independent of us.
So you're just gonna lie to me. So is that what you're gonna hear? To just lie to my face?
Is a detector a part of us?
You think I'm an idiot?
Like if we have a magnetic field sensor?
Why are you lying to me? Why are you lying to me?
How am I lying to you?
A detector is still dealing with the perceptions of the world. We can't detect actual world.
Sure we can.
No, we can't, you fucking liar.
We have things that detect things in our world all the time. Look, we can detect magnetic fields. We can detect electrical fields.
Our perceptions. It's perceptual. It's not actual.
This isn't our perception. This is concrete, physical, right? Dude, like these detectors function based off of fundamental aspects of the universe.
You're completely lost, and you don't know what you're talking about. Do more research on this topic, and you'll understand what I'm saying is not controversial. You shouldn't be arguing with what I'm saying. You're only arguing because you're low information. If you weren't low information, You wouldn't be arguing with me. So you need to go do
I
some.
think you spend far too much time thinking about the philosophical
I
aspect
wish you
rather than the
well. I wish
concrete
you
aspects of the
well.
world.
I wish you well. You just don't care. Okay. You're just gonna believe whatever you want to be true. You don't care about the evidence. But I wish you well. No hate. But honestly, you just don't know what you're talking about. You're low information, so not saying that to be mean. Go research what I said. You'll find out what I'm saying is accurate. Welcome, Kim.
Bro, you just crashed out so hard.
Oh, you think so? So what's your objective standard to say that I lost?
My objective standard to say that you lost? Probably
what's your
yelling,
objective standard?
stop! Stop! Stop!
Is that an objective standard?
Dude, that was the funniest shit I've seen all morning, dude.
Well, good. I'm trying to make you laugh. That's the whole point.
You're doing it, dude. You're really doing it.
All right.
So what's your proof? What's your proof your God's real?
If you deny God, you couldn't have any objective standard to prove anything at all.
Why?
Well, what's your objective standard that's not God?
No, I'm asking you why. I'm not the one who's claim you are.
Because it's either that like God's mind, the mind of God first rationalizes the facts, or the mind of man first rationalizes the facts.
You're just presupposing, like you're going along with your name, Precept Mars. You're just presupposing that there has to be a God.
No, I just presented a true dichotomy. It's either the mind of God that first rationalizes facts, or it's the mind of man, right?
No.
Okay, so what would be the third option?
Well, see, I'm a pagan, right? Do you know what a pagan is?
Yeah.
What do we believe?
You believe in like mythology.
Well, every religion believes in mythology, but oh, just every other religion but yours.
Yeah, Christianity is history.
The funny thing about these lives is they're not to prove to anyone else but yourself that what you believe is true. You're trying so hard to convince yourself that what you believe is true, and it's so obvious. I don't need to go out and convince anyone of paganism.
Yeah, but I'm making an argument.
I'm happy if no one believes it. That's fine.
I'm making an argument for my position, and no one is dealing with the argument. They're just ignoring the argument and then believing what they want to be true.
Bro, you crashed out so hard in the last guess, and the last guess was actually giving you so much good.
What's your objective standard to say that I lost?
You crashing it out.
Yeah, but what's your objective standard?
Did you see all the baby bottles that everyone was putting in the chat? I believe like majority rules most of the time. I think if a majority of the people that are in your live believe that you lost, you objectively lost.
An ad populum fallacy?
What?
You're appealing to popularity. That's a fallacy. So you're not a very logical person, are you? You're kind of an emotional person?
We're all emotional people.
Right, but if you want to be logical, you're going to have to be a Christian.
Oh, yeah, that's the only way to be logical, huh, bud?
Yeah, it's the only way to be logical is to be a Christian.
The one and only way is to be Christian. If you're not a Christian, you're not logical, idiot.
Yeah. Either be a Christian or be an emotional, mommy, daddy issues atheist.
Well, tell your God to fucking smite me.
Okay.
Well, still here. Still fucking here. That's so weird.
We've been smited.
It's almost like your God's a little bitch and he won't actually do anything. Have a good day.
All right. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. Remember to get a lot of aloe vera for the afterlife. Welcome. Oh, he left. Maybe a good time to take a break.
I'd love to teach that last guest more about the Bible.
Gosh, Venus joined. We have a goddess in the chat.
Oh, interesting.
What's the prompt? God exists. Debate live. I need to fix it so you can see it even with my cam on. So I'm going to try and do that. Someone told me how to do that, hypothetically. See if it works.
So tell me, bro, this is very important. You're a theist, I'm a theist, but I want you to tell me, how can I use that your question. What's your way of explaining that?
So like, actually, I can do a diagram.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah. Wait, I gotta reverse my cam too. 1 second. Oh wait. Okay, reverse my cam first. Sorry, 1 second. Sorry.
I'm sorry, some kind of thing just came up.
Yeah. Sometimes if I draw it, it's
Yeah.
easier to understand. What's that, Sela? Oh, there we go.
It keeps bringing up like the vote thing. Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
No. I'm trying to do this. Did I bring up the vote? Oops. Oh, okay, so I'm trying to do the draw. So here we go. Wait, it's not drawing? Why is it not drawing? Why isn't it draw?
No, it says draw. It says draw and guess. Did you guess any words?
Yes.
Thanks for playing.
It's not working. It's not working. Okay.
Well, just explain it to me, because I can understand.
Okay.
For me, I want to start with first cause. I always go with first cause and the immaterial argument for God. That immateriality is using quantum mechanics, going backwards from there. Immaterial. Apparently, that which is immaterial is responsible for that which we observe in the material world. Therefore, first cause must be necessary, and then I want to discuss, necessity. Are things really necessary? And then
I don't think that's
necessary, and then I want to discuss, necessity. Are things really necessary? And then
I don't think that's a good argument. You need to do the
so you don't think that God is necessary?
No, I think God's necessary, but I think he's like a.
You don't think that God is necessary?
No, I think God's necessary, but I think he's like a transcendental necessity, which means he's necessary to like understand the world. No, I think God's necessary, but I think he's like a transcendental necessity, which means he's necessary to like understand the world. So that's what I'm talking about. We have to, we have our concepts like in the mind. The concepts exist in the mind, and they we have to, we have our concepts like in the mind. The concepts exist in the mind, and they reflect allegedly, right, this reality that we in the external world. And so then the task is going to be, we have to be able to connect our concept to the world. If our concept doesn't connect to the world, then it's not real. It's like a fiction or a fantasy. So
right. So if I can sort of add to what you're saying here, for me at least, God is the source of all possible concepts, and all the concepts there. It's almost like Platonic form in a sense, but God is the source of all the concepts that we could observe in science.
It's more like God is like the connection. So like if you think of a pearl necklace, you got all these pearls and they're connected by the string on the necklace. And like one of the pearls is going to be our concept, and one of the pearls is going to be like the external world. So God is the string. He connects the pearls so that our concept aligns with the world. So it's because we accept a creator-creature distinction as Christians. And so God creates the world and God creates humans. And because God designs the world and God designs humans, he can design them to match like puzzle pieces. Because
but I'm using this whole idea. In the beginning was the word, so it looks to me the logos, this whole idea, the concept, the mind, the word is the basis of all that we observe in science. See, the word and words are what? Conceptual. Words are simply the semiotics of God. They're a divine semiotic, and through that semiotic, everything else. All science ever does is simply unveil or discover what God has already established trillions and trillions of eons ago. Since God is atemporal, I can't really put a time on it, but I'm trying to discuss it in terms of the first non-contingent first, that non-contingent first. In other words, who created God? Well, I already established non-contingent. God must be necessary, then non-contingent. You see?
Yeah, but I think that like they're trying to make like a Kalam cosmological argument here, or like a first cause argument.
Right, right. I'm establishing
There's
first
like
cause, but I'm overcoming by using a transcendental definition, using
what?
non-contingency as my transcendental position. Then that gives me the opportunity to go from there and go forward because non-theists and anti-theists will spend all day going, well, who created that and who created that, and infinite bibble babble all the way back to nothing, right? So we have to begin with the first cause being non-contingent, necessary, non-contingent, and immaterial antecedent to materiality. So an immaterial antecedent, and we can use the immateriality antecedents. That point is connected to quantum mechanics in the sense that if a quantum system can be in multiple states at one time, then it seems reasonable that an almighty God, by definition, ought to be able to take on every possible state at once.
Well, the problem with that argument, that type of argument, it's going to rely on presuppositions that your opponent could reject. Like for that argument to work, you're going to have to believe like in the principle of sufficient reason. So if an atheist denies that principle, then the argument doesn't work. Whereas,
well, that's on them. It's like you said before. Some people are low information. They have low information. They're limited to their argument.
But arguments depend upon our presuppositions. If we have different presuppositions,
there it is.
The arguments aren't going to work.
But as you know, as a believer, though, you know that light and darkness shall never agree.
Yeah, but that's why I think when we're talking about atheism versus theism, we're debating our presuppositions. So we have to do a presuppositional argument.
Right, which is why I start with being that first cause must first be necessary and then be non-contingent. That way we're establishing a transcendental position for the first cause. And I don't even want to refer to first cause as God immediately, because if your first move is checkmate, then we've lost the game. That's not how chess works. You know,
that for that argument to work, they have to agree with your presuppositions, right? That's why we have to argue the presuppositions first.
Right, necessity.
And then,
are there necessary things?
After we establish that we have similar presuppositions, then we can talk about evidence, because evidence is going to depend upon the presuppositions.
Okay, excellent. Yes. So that's what I try to do. I try to get people to first agree that there are things that are necessary. Necessities do exist. You know, and
when I run my argument, it doesn't matter if they agree or not. My argument's going to work on anyone. So there's a limit.
Right, but with the presuppositions, I'm saying I'm agreeing with you even now that first we have to establish the presuppositions.
Yes. That's why we have to, if you're going to talk about evidence, you have to frame it within like the presuppositional argument.
Right. Well, I'm in pharmaceuticals, and we what we call a high pressure liquid chromatography. In chromatography, we set up a standard against which we could determine the concentration of any element in a solution or in the particular analyte we're trying to isolate from during our analysis. So I always want to know, as far as people determining and saying, well, an anti-theist may say, well, there's just insufficient evidence there's a lack of evidence for God. Well, what God are you talking about? What specific God? And then by what standard metric have you determined that there's a lack of evidence for X deity? And until they can at least present you with a standard metric against to measure it, they cannot empirically determine or scientifically state that there's a lack of evidence for that particular God.
Yeah, but it's even worse than that because, for one, it's a fallacy. There was no evidence for DNA 100 years ago, but DNA existed. So it doesn't follow that that's
right. You had him on observation. Because observation is too limited. Our empirical process is just too limited to account for reality. In other words, just because I happen to notice that there's a thing called DNA and that I've missed it, for generations we just missed it. That proves that observation itself, the empirical process, is limited to human intellect and the sum of all human knowledge, which up to now has been insufficient to determine whether or not there be evidence for God.
And so another thing, when they say there's no evidence, they're creating a criteria there. We're like, well, I need evidence to believe in something.
Exactly. So and I agree. I'll agree with them and say, okay, fine. By what standard metric have you determined that?
Well, yeah, you can do that route. But you can also point out that they've accepted a non-God model of reality without evidence. Because if you ask
Exactly. There's nothing scientific in their claim in their position, they can stand on and say, well, we don't need God. Well, how do you know we don't need God? Why is God? You say, well, why is God necessary? Well, again, are you agreeing then that their things are necessary? And if they agree to necessity, you've got them. You've got them, because now you can connect all necessity to God.
But that's only if they accept the PSR, and they're just going to reject the PSR. So you don't got them. You have to do pre-sub.
Right,